Are you struggling to keep up with the top drivers? Are you ready to get faster and more consistent? If so, it doesn't have to take as long as you might think. With the VRS competitive subscription, you'll have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything you need to analyze your driving and see exactly where you're losing time. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off your lap times. When it comes to your equipment holding you back, the powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the best drivers in the world, including Jordan Caruso, Tim Ryan, Jordi Lopez, and Oscar Piastri. It's no secret that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also the best value for money. So if you're looking to upgrade your wheelbase to direct drive and want highly adjustable, ultra-realistic pedals, VRS is your answer. You can get better, faster, and more consistent in less time and for less money. You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. Just go to the URL or the button below and learn why the best use VRS. Are you struggling to keep up with the top drivers? Are you ready to get faster and more consistent? If so, it doesn't have to take as long as you might think. With the VRS competitive subscription, you'll have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything you need to analyze your driving and see exactly where you're losing time. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off your lap times. When it comes to your equipment holding you back, the powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the best drivers in the world, including Jordan Caruso, Tim Ryan, Jordi Lopez, and Oscar Piastri. It's no secret that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also the best value for money. So if you're looking to upgrade your wheelbase to direct drive and want highly adjustable, ultra-realistic pedals, VRS is your answer. You can get better, faster, and more consistent in less time and for less money. You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. Just go to the URL or the button below and learn why the best use VRS.
From Brazil to Japan, the NARL GT3, quote, World Tour, if you will, rolls into Suzuka this evening, or should we say this morning, as the sim wakes up to a brand new day. We're halfway through this 4th season of GT3 racing, and this could be the turning point for some troublesome seasons. If you've had struggles to this point, guess what? This is where you have got to make a change. Welcome to Pit Stop TV. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV with Emerson Arden alongside. And we are on to round 5 tonight at one of iRacing's older Formula 1 level circuits, and one that many racing fans hold near and dear to their hearts, making it a perfect site for a sunrise special as we wake up in the virtual Suzuka, Japan. Let's move on into the sim. Emerson, glad to have you alongside, and this is the site. The sun just peeking up over the islands here of Japan, and it's just a good morning to go racing.
Absolutely. In the land of the rising sun, we'll get to watch that sun rise up above racing action tonight. And I cannot wait. We were privy to a great show last week at Interlagos, but we'll take a look at the circuit at hand, of course. The Suzuka circuit, a staple of the Formula 1 calendar, and it's hosted, of course, many sports car events throughout its years. You look, of course, at the S section, Spoon, 130R, and the Cassius Triangle is like the most main trouble spots on the course. But, of course, this is just a very difficult circuit in itself, but a very flowy one at that.
So many, I guess, historic, what's the word I'm looking for? Historic, famous corners, for sure here at Suzuka. Of course, the S's are famous in their own right. Dunlop, the Degner curves, the Hairpin 200R, Spoon curve, 130R, and the Casio Triangle all have their own bit of history to go along with them. Originally a test circuit that was just kind of formed into a fantastic racing circuit here in Japan. Boy, it is a really fun place to race. Provides great racing in Formula 1 when COVID isn't taking over the world, and thankfully, as things kind of mellow out from there, we'll see it back on the Formula 1 calendar for a long time to come, and thankfully it's on the calendar this evening, round number 5 for the NARL GT3 season. Before we talk about standings, let's talk about their schedule, Emerson. Brazil last week, Japan tonight, it's Spa next week. We're in a really interesting position here in this schedule. 5 technically international rounds in a row, but 4 that are not in the Americas. I guess not in North America, I should say. And 4 very important rounds as well before we go to Daytona to wrap this thing up.
Absolutely. And the degree of difficulty has just stayed consistent. Whether, Elkhart Lake, even though Road America on paper didn't look like that hard of a track, we had the opening lap pilot that changed things around. Then the update came out at VAR, and the pros were all over the place. Canadian Tire, a very difficult circuit with a lot of elevation changes. Saw a few pros jump out in that race. Amazing racing last week, but it was just almost pure chaos at Brazil. And tonight here at Suzuka, just the build up to this point, we're kind of waiting for that point where we're going to maybe get a mellowed out race. I just don't see it with Suzuka because it's going to be a fast-paced, action-packed kind of race.
Well, Rockefeller Racing leads the practice session this evening, whatever you want to call it, with Kyle Petty on top over John Kroom and Aubrey Kundle. And this, of course, your amateur race. 40 minutes of racing coming up for the AMs. Let's check out their point standings going into their event for the evening. Brent King got leading the way. He went about 5th place or so in the top 10 anyways in practice. Bradley Alvis in the top 5, I do believe, and Krim Hussein a little further down. Matthew O'Leary struggling a little bit this afternoon as well. But Logan Boone, Ilya Speaker, they're all looking for a lot of very important points. And you see 3 of those Rockefeller Racing drivers in the top 10, but mired way back down there, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Ilya Speaker, Aubrey Kundle, John Kroom, they all need to show up and show out. And how about Kyle Petty, who just led the practice session, 12th in the standings, 53 points out of the lead. They have got to turn something around now if they want any chance of winning this amateur title.
Absolutely, Andrew, but none other than Suzuka could be that turning point. All of those drivers performed very well in practice. We're now into qualifying right now in sim, but with Kroom being second, Kundle third, and Elias Speaker just outside the top 5 in the practice times. This is their time more than any time to start that turnaround. They may need to get a little lucky with some external help or some unfortunate circumstances to happen to their fellow championship competitors, but they are looking pretty sporty tonight here at Suzuka.
And I do apologize. Albert Kundal, I think, used to be over in the Rockefeller Racing Group, is now over with the wrong stuff. So a bit mistaken there, but I'm going to have to get used to that change for car 653 as he gets up to speed in his the wrong stuff BMW M4. Let's take a look at John Kroom and his Ferrari 488 this evening for Rockefeller Racing. And you saw Kyle Petit momentarily, in his Lamborghini for Rockefeller Racing as well. Let's go down through the field with some of the car selections from the top. We've got Brian Long in a BMW for the wrong stuff. Stephen Finch this evening in a BMW as well. And we've seen a resurgence in car selection for the BMW and the Ferrari today, as here's an Audi for Mark Scott, a Ferrari as you saw for John Kroom. Krim Hussein here moving from the Audi over to a Mercedes as, well, I'll actually touch on that situation in a few moments. Logan Boone in a Ferrari tonight. J.R. Gregory in a Porsche, Dominic Turcotte still in a Mercedes, Brent Kingcott in a BMW, Bradley Alvis today in a BMW. He's been running a Lamborghini. This is a big change.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another update kind of released this week, Andrew, that kind of added another layer into the whole GT3 car selection this week, and we saw some cars kind of get like a little bit of a buff, as you will, a little bit of an improvement throughout the week, and some car selections had to be reevaluated in the week.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. These guys, a lot of these guys actually participated in an event last night that was pretty big. 2.5 hours of racing at Watkins Glen International, broadcast over on SimTV and on Rev TV in Canada. And it was all to raise money for the Sick Kids Foundation. I was so glad to be a part of that with Kyle Heyer and SimTV. That was definitely a privilege. But these guys were able to run on the same track as a lot of their competitors and teammates in this North American Racing League, as well as Daniel Morad. And what I learned from that race, along with this new BOP and some changes it has made, is the Mercedes is perfectly viable. Granted, one grain of salt to take with that is while the Mercedes won the race for Moradness at Watkins Glen, Daniel Morad was behind the wheel for Moradness, and that I think is a big asterisk to have on there. And it's Daniel Morad, somebody who helped iRacing kind of redevelop this GT3 class, but at the same time it proves that with the right driver, the right team, the right scenarios, yes, the Mercedes can go out here and win races no matter the BOP, and the BOP actually helped the Mercedes out quite a bit. So along with that, it buffed up the BMW and Porsche just a little bit, and as well as the Ferrari, and kind of brought the McLaren, Lamborghini, and Audi down just a hair. And I don't think we're going to see McLarens now. We might still see them in the pro race. We're seeing fewer Lamborghinis, certainly substantially fewer Audis in the field. And this is very important right before these guys all go run the 24 Hours of Daytona next week. So much changing. So much is fluid in this GT3 class, and we're seeing it all take place here in the North American Racing League. How important, how fun is that? As you take a look at some of your fast drivers in qualifying, Matthew O'Leary in a BMW, he goes fastest so far, and look at that for the Moradna squad.
Absolutely, and I almost forgot about the BMW. Not that it's a forgettable car, but it just didn't get that much love. But now it's here, having its resurgence. It's of course very fast amongst the front runners, and we'll see if this BMW really does have that kind of stuff to kind of hold through an entire 40-minute sprint race, through pit stop. We'll see if the tires wear any differently with the changes.
We're somewhere around 40 cars as oh man, I think we're over 40 even. We're somewhere in the nature of nearly 50 cars again, actually. 43, 44, somewhere around there, as the car count was actually around 31 not so long ago in the practice session. So a lot of drivers joining very suddenly, as here's Brent Kingcott on track in 6th position currently in qualifying. And while these guys get some more laps in, Emerson, let's talk about the weather that they are battling as the sun rises here in virtual Suzuka, Japan. 67 degrees in the air, 68 on track. That track temp is going to go up quite a bit. It tends to do that here at Suzuka. There's a lot of pavement to warm up once the sun does actually come up. And these guys, they get the better track, I think, if you will, versus the pros. They're going to start to get a little more sun. But you can see the AM guys, they're getting a lot of sun out of Spoon. Boy, that is a blinding glare. That's going to be interesting into 130R.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. As the sun is coming up, the temp still has to work its way up. The track temp is going to be, crawling up all day. With the fixed setups, these cars experience a lot of understeer, and these drivers are going to have to, counter that, of course, different braking points or less throttle application. It will be a little tougher for these amateur guys.
New purple lap there for O'Leary. Let's see what Blake Scott can do. Currently from second in an Audi. He's nearly 4/10 off pace. He picks it up a little bit, I think, from his previous lap time, but slower than his best lap time. Aubrey Kundle across the line, goes no faster. Brian Long, he begins a new lap. Zachariah Rosar, he should come around. Actually, he just began a new lap as well about 20 seconds ago, as did King Cott. Not much changing in this top 10. Mark Scott, meanwhile, is in the 9th position. John Kroom rounds out your top 10 currently. Some new drivers, or some drivers rather, just getting onto the racetrack include Billy Bowerman here in car 102 in a Lamborghini today and having trouble through Dunlop. And unfortunately, he's going to have to scrap that qualifying attempt. Here's Bruce Jackson from Aerokinetics in car 77, an Audi this evening for him. Scott Angelo, meanwhile, across the line, will begin his 3rd flying lap. Not one of them have counted so far, so he's got to keep that car on track, as that Mercedes has been a little bit tough to handle.
Yeah, I think the weight distribution in the Mercedes, it's actually quite fascinating. When you're able to wrestle one of these around and kind of, negotiate a lap very quickly. Very difficult, especially on corner entry. The rear end kind of just starts to want to come around on you in the Mercedes.
Here's a look at Bradley Alvis, one of our more recent strong drivers in this amateur category, well down the order currently, 16th quick behind David Stevenson in a BMW. I mean, he's over a second off pace, and this is actually one of the more wide open, by time difference, rundowns we've had so far in qualifying this season. Over a second back to 16th spot. That is kind of rare, actually. And at the top, you've got a nearly 4/10 difference. Let's watch Alvis come down to the line as John Kroom actually jumps up to 3rd, just 1/1000th of a second off of Blake Scott. Alvis calls it a day. Here's Kroom. He's now done for his run. Blake Scott, though, coming down to the line. Let's see if he can go any faster. And it looks like he will not, as Ilya Speaker picks up to 5th position.
And with Alvis having these troubles in qualifying, Andrew, that's huge for those drivers who needed a good run today to make up some points. The second driver in points there in Alvis, having a little bit of a struggle here in the early going. If you can capitalize on that early, kind of get out ahead, and if Alvis has trouble working his way through the field, this could be a great haul of points working up.
A shout out to our partners here with the North American Racing League, VRS, Mirandus, and JS Consulting, as well as our partners here with Pit Stop TV, with the channel, Whiplash Media, SimCams, SimRapMarket.com, and Short Track Weekly. Several drivers still on track, including Kyle Petit, who we're on board with. Let's not forget Stephen Finch in the number 227. Looks like BMW potentially, and yes, that is the case for car 227. Bill Pasek, meanwhile, for Mirandus goes to 14th in the Mercedes. Karim Hussein comes across the line, goes 21st. Scott Angelo wraps up his run. How about Kenneth Michael maybe out there in car 19? He's wrapping up his run in his Lambo. Let's see if he can go any better than 32nd. And the answer to that question, unfortunately, is no. Still a few other cars. Bruce Jackson on track currently. Let's take a look at his Audi as he heads into the Casio Triangle here for Aerokinetics. I know these guys are working on beefing up their NARL program. And, well, unfortunately, time is going to expire on him. That means he has no chance to go any better in qualifying, and actually he gets no lap time recorded. 21 laps, the expected race distance over the course of 40 minutes. We'll see if that changes with our pit stop this evening. Weather conditions now in the race session, they're just about the exact same. Glad you're joining us here at Pit Stop TV this evening. Let's go down your starting order for the North American Racing League at Suzuka. For the AM category, it is Matthew O'Leary on pole in car 18 for Mirandus. Blake Scott will start from second, a big-time pole, one that Matthew O'Leary desperately needs for his season. Starting third, you'll find John Kroom. Aubrey Kundle from The Wrong Stuff will start from 4th position. Starting 5th this evening, you'll find John Kroom's teammate, Ilya Speaker, alongside Brian Long, who is Aubrey Kundle's teammate. So a couple of teammates in a row there. Kind of interesting how that's going to work out. Starting 7th place this evening, Zach Rosar in car 101. Kyle Petit, another Rockefeller Racing Machine, will start from 8th spot. And to round out your top 10, it's Brent Kingcott in car 99, your point leader, and Mark Scott in 10th.
Row number 6 will find Logan Boone in a Ferrari. It'll be Nicholas Sykes there in the Lamborghini, starting in that 12th position. Row number 7 will find the Audi of Soleil Sad, and the Mercedes there of Bill Pasek. Row number 8 will find Stephen Finch in the 227, Daryl Williams in there in the 314. Find our way back to row number 9. It'll be David Stevenson in a Ford. I am so excited to see this Ford on track. 18th position will be Dominique Turcotte there in the 173 machine. And to round out the top 20 will be Bradley Alvis in 19th and Ricardo Delgado starting in 20th.
I'm glad you caught that about the Ford, Emerson. I had not noticed that for Stevenson in the number 13 car. We'll have to see how he does this evening. Starting from 21st spot, it's Joe Nagy behind the wheel of a BMW, it looks like, for Rockefeller Racing, alongside Karim Hussein, moving on over to Mercedes for Sim City Racing. Starting from 23rd, you'll find Clarence Rosa. Aaron Beaver will start from 24th position for Aerokinetics. Starting 25th, it's Robert Gambill, also for Aerokinetics, it looks like, but in a Mercedes. So a lot of their drivers going for Audis. He's in the AMG. Meanwhile, Michael Pusick will start from 26th position. Starting 27th, it's Scott Angelo for Muradness. 28th is Phil Badurka. And to round out your top 30, it's Chris Winstone and Armando Bejeron. This is going to be a short pace lap, so let's quickly go through the rest. Starting 31st, it's Dominic Angelico, then Kenneth Michael. It'll be 33rd, William Valdez. 34th, Sean Patterson, then J.R. Gregory, Corey Groves, Jeff Castillo, Don Gottlieb, Mike Braun, Billy Barriman, Bruce Jackson, and Robert Guadagnoli for your 42-car starting grid. Matthew O'Leary out front is going to lead us down to the green flag that quickly, and we are racing in Japan. Through Dunlop for the first time, you see everybody rolling on through these couple of corners, out of the S's and towards the Degner curves. Here's a look at your leaders in the Degners for the first time. A nice, clean line of racing. 41 cars took the green flag, and all 41 continue on. No issues yet. We'll knock on wood for that one.
Yeah, relatively clean lap through the S's. Usually we see a lot of trouble happen there in the opening laps. Now we see a little bit of jostling for position going on, coming out of the Degner curves into the hairpin. Beautiful shot we've got here. One car going a little wide there. I believe that's around the 18th position. And another car going wide. A couple of drivers struggling with that braking zone. That is a hard one to get on cold tires.
And out of Spoon for the first time, you'll see Blake Scott all over the tailpipes of Matthew O'Leary and Audi, challenging very early as we get through the first 90 seconds of action. And from your drones, you'll see it's going to be Blake Scott moving over to the right side for 130R, taking a look to the outside of Matthew O'Leary for the race lead on lap 1, and it's an overcorrection, and Blake Scott is going to spin in 130R and come back onto the racing course. Oh my goodness, that could have been so terrible, and he's going to send it in to the Casio Triangle, make contact with one car. I think that was Ilya's Speaker he hit, but he's going to slot in just in front of Kyle Pantee, and oh no, Speaker at the end of the pit wall.
Oh my goodness, and that one's going to hurt. Speaker was having a great run to start early on. This is going to be a great points day if Speaker could have held it up there and caught up in an early incident before even completing the opening lap.
The left front of that car is destroyed. I don't know if we can get a good look at it. You can see it there, yeah. Wow, that is so unfortunate for Ilya. He's just trying to fight it into the pit box. He'll find it eventually. Oh my goodness, what a terrible, terrible start there. Let's get a replay as Kenneth Michael now has a problem. Out of turn 1, it looks like turn 2 maybe. Yes, at a turn 2 there, he's off track and will rejoin, but let's go back and see that for car 06, Ilya Speaker, as he'll get the fast repair and get back on track. Heartbreak for him. He was doing so well. And let's watch on board here as he heads through 130R. You'll see Blake Scott go way off track on his own volition, come back on right there. And that was oh so close for some of these guys coming into the Casio Triangle, then gets punted into the corner, but hangs on. And what happens here in just a moment? On the curbing. Wow, and the car just whips straight around. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the tires, Andrew, with the low track temp, these tires are going to take 2, 3, maybe even 4 laps before they're up to optimal racing temperature and pressures. And I think right there, you know, getting on the curbing, that never helps, but is especially vulnerable when you're on cold tires.
Absolutely not what I expected there for anybody on the opening lap here at Suzuka. Matthew O'Leary with race lead. He's got it by half second around Ricundle. John Kroom is third. Then Brian Long and Zach Rosa are your top 5. As the field flies by on the back straightaway, a good look at the entire set of cars coming on down to wrap up lap number 2 here momentarily.
So with all that action to start off, Andrew, the field has gotten really spread out here in this AM race. I think these drivers might appreciate that a little bit as well. Kind of focus on their own race. Maybe there's only 1 or 2 cars in their area, not a whole group of cars. Kind of take the stress level in some of these drivers' minds from the opening laps and tone it down a little bit. Now you can kind of run your race. Suzuka, a very flowing track, a lot to deal with driver rhythm. And we ride on board here with Stevenson in the Ford.
He's up 3 spots already, battling with Nicholas Sykes and Dominic Turcotte. Sykes in a Lamborghini, Turcotte in a Mercedes. And Ford has entered more recent GTs to competition, but they were all in GTE competition, in GTLM, not for GT3 or GTD racing. So those cars are for a different spec. Those are much newer, from 2016 or so, 2015, in that range. But this Ford GT particularly is from about 2005, and you can see the much older styling. It is a very old race car alongside cars of 2022 and in some cases 2023 as we work into the new year here. Stevenson, I mean, he's 18 years behind the mark with this Ford GT, but we love seeing it on track, and it can still hold its own. You can see this GT3 car, multiple sets of regulations behind, is doing just fine.
Absolutely. It's right now in the upper midfield here. It has a shot at a top 10 here if he plays his cards right, Stevenson, as he's looking right now on Nicholas Sykes.
Yeah, he's in the top third of competition. If you take all 42 cars and break them into thirds, it would be, he is just at the back end of the top third of competition, as Scott Angelo has a problem in his AMG through Spoon, but he hangs back on. And yeah, Stevenson in a great spot, honestly, with the first. Oh my goodness!
Oh my
Nicholas Sykes back into the racetrack and across the field, and oh, that was lucky that nobody hit him. That was, wow. It's not over yet. He's going to get back on the course here into the Casio Triangle right in front of a few other cars, and that holds up William Valdez just a skosh, but I'd imagine Sykes, will dive off the track and come in for repairs. That was a wallop of an impact out of 130R, and, you know, Scott Reister told me earlier today we're going to see a lot of Lamborghinis in trouble, I'll say, to paraphrase a little bit. This is the first. Just tracks out to the curbing and loses it. And I think what's happened here, I don't know if this is tire pressures that are lower or the iRacing fixed setup is just set this low on the racetrack. We're seeing more and more cars lately get loose on curbing, and it could be multiple things. It could be a matter of colder tires, lower temperatures, putting these cars lower down on the track and bottoming out over the curbing. It could also be that the iRacing.com fixed setup that this league utilizes just happens to be that much lower and bottoms out. It's tough for us to say, Emerson, but either one of those is definitely the case, and that time it bites the 42 car.
Yeah, absolutely. For what it's worth, I mean, these cars, they are already low to the ground in itself. I'm sure, you know, the lower pressures and the way the setup might be, it just doesn't help. You're kind of taught in these kind of races to stay off the curbs as well. Some you can use very flat ones maybe, but not those.
Oh no, our race leader, Matthew O'Leary, has just binned it out of Spoon curve. And this is live as the field comes up on, and we'll get a replay momentarily. I think the car is okay, but he went for a spin. As now Ricardo Delgado goes off track with Bill Pisek. A lot is happening. There's Pisek trying to get back on, one of O'Leary's teammates at Maradness, and he's going to park it. As there goes Brent Kingcott, the point leader out of a 130R. He comes back across. Hold the brakes. Dominic Turcotte, what a god.
Oh, my goodness. Andrew, what is happening?
Cold tires is what's happening as King Khan still trying to find a way back on track. He's having to let the entire field go through. He was running in the top 5. Finally, will spin that car around. He will rejoin in 28th position. Oh my goodness. This is huge. First, let's get the replay for O'Leary. A BMW in trouble out of Spoon Curve was leading this race, and then the points leader has a problem, and O'Leary, once again, it's going to be curbing. It's going to be a very, very common theme. Do you recall in the Formula 1 season when Lewis Hamilton was told to stay away from the curbing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, same thing here. These drivers need to stay off
the Red Bull Ring.
Yep. It's the same exact thing here. These guys have just got to stay off of the curbing, and O'Leary noses it briefly into the wall. Really minor damage, if any. But just behind him was the 99 of King Khan, and let's check this out.
It's not a second lap in a row. We had an incident down here, 130R. I did mention it's going to be one of the trouble spots, and he didn't even get over the curb. He just tapped it before even really hitting the apex of the curb. And somehow doesn't make contact with another car, but my goodness, we might need to send a rejoin lesson out to these drivers. It has not been great the past few weeks.
I think that was just a matter of frustration not holding the brakes afterwards. And honestly, after watching it back, I can understand entirely how Brent King Khan would just let go of the wheel and be annoyed by that one. All he does is go out to the rumble curbing, which is completely fair game in any race car, and the car just completely whips around. That shouldn't be happening for all intents and purposes. Something is amiss. But Turcotte barely gets by. That red and white curbing, just tapping it with your right sides is perfectly normal. It doesn't matter what car you bring here.
Right.
That is definitely not how that should react. Regardless, we have got a field still running of some, let's say 39, 40 cars on track. Actually, 41 still out here. Bruce Jackson, the final of them, battling actually a bit with Mike Braun. Oh my, what?
Another one.
What have we just watched? I actually don't know what's just happened there. That was Kenneth Michael and Bruce Jackson. Michael the Lamborghini, Jackson the Audi. Michael was on the lead lap.
My goodness.
That is one of the... I still don't even understand what I just watched, and we'll get a look here one more time. But I was going to mention that Bruce Jackson was just behind, I think it was Mike Braun. And then this happens, and I am utterly confused. Oh, wow.
It was just off the pace. That Lamborghini was destroyed.
I am still utterly baffled at this incident. It looks like if we take this all the way back to Spoon Curve, you can see the aerokinetics machine of Bruce Jackson well off pace, giving time to these drivers. Not at all concerned about this battle that he's actually in with Mike Braun in the 107. And unfortunately, Kenneth Michael comes up on this, and I don't know if it's the sun or what's going on, but he just, I mean, that's a tough spot. I don't know if I can blame Kenneth. There was a hole for a moment. I think maybe he should have lifted just seeing a car in a weird, precarious spot into 130R. Especially being at the very back of the pack, but honestly, it's tough to sit there and watch the driver's eye view and actually blame Kenneth Michael in that situation. That is just one of the more bizarre things you'll see in racing, I think. That is wild.
Yeah, I agree. That sun did look like it played a huge role in that as well, and I don't know if it was a slowdown. I'd imagine the only thing I can think of is a slowdown penalty that was trying to be served there, I believe, by the Audi, but
Bruce Jackson. It could have been.
It's the driver's responsibility to serve that in a safe manner.
At the same time, though, it is the car's approaching responsibility to not hit a car that is very much in your windshield. The windshield was larger than the mirror. That's just a really weird situation. I don't know that you can place full blame on either driver. I think that's just a really really bad scenario to have in a really weird corner on the racetrack that's already been a problem spot. Here's the onboard, though, with Logan Boone right behind Mark Scott, who's actually closing in on Matthew O'Leary, who had that problem a few laps ago in Spoon. And with all of this happening, Emerson, we have quickly ticked on through the opening 13 minutes and 7 laps of this race. As we are on to lap 7, O'Leary with the advantage here for the 7th spot. This is the closest battle in the top 10. The next closest, though, is Stevenson and Finch for 11th spot. Stevenson the Ford, Finch the BMW just ahead. And this could be a good one to Spoon, as Delgado has a problem.
Oh, no. This track is biting these drivers left and right.
Well, here's a look at Stevenson and Finch as they head onto the back straightaway. Boone and Scott as well. O'Leary. A lot of battles to watch as this race rolls on for the amateurs. What a wild way to start things off here at Suzuka for sure. Right now, we're kind of in that waiting period, waiting on pit stops. These drivers are kind of into a groove now, not a whole lot happening until some of them make more mistakes. That is a beautiful look through the Casio triangle at Mark Scott, chasing down Matthew O'Leary. But right now, we're in that slightly calmer period, the eye of the storm, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, things will definitely ramp up with when the fuel strategies come into play, and if we see drivers taking tires, and then we'll have drivers on cold tires racing with drivers on tires that are warmed up, and the varying grip differences are going to come to play once again, and the track temp is still going to be relatively low for these drivers as well. We have a lot of factors that can come to play here. Window stops come around, and we are at that point, and I think if a lot of drivers felt that their car was a little unstable with the cold tires, I think many, well, even if they feel the grip going away, will probably just try to run the whole 40 on this, set of tires to avoid another cold tire period.
Just watching this line of cars inside of the top 10, Aubrey Kundle currently leading over 7/10 ahead of John Kroom. And this, a look in the mid-portion of the top 10 with Matthew O'Leary. Kyle Petty is actually leading this line over O'Leary and Mark Scott, then Logan Boone and that all-red Ferrari 488. Scott is the Audi, and that purple BMW belongs to Matthew O'Leary, who started this race from pole position. And what we haven't talked much about, Emerson, is the fact that Aubrey Kundle has, of course, inherited the race lead and done so in fabulous fashion. 4 laps led, make it 5 when he gets back around to the start-finish line, as long as he does so in that wrong stuff BMW M4. Just a nice, calm race out front for him. And look at that, staying nicely off of the curbing out of 130R.
Absolutely, Andrew. This is going to be something else I mentioned. You highlighted Kundle and Kroom, 2 drivers that needed some great runs today. Well, they have done that by virtue of kind of just surviving and, unfortunately, at the hands of some misfortune for some of their other competitors. And Alvis has not made the gains that we'd expect Alvis to make, despite all the opening lap mistakes here. Alvis still down here in the 14th position. So right now, it is a huge boost right now in the favor of Kundle and Kroom, who are right now first and second.
I mean, we can't forget the fact that we saw the 99 go all the way back to the deep 20s. Your point leader into today, Brent Kincott, is now still 22nd position. Way back here behind Darnell Williams, Chris Winstone, and others. This is a serious issue for our points leader. And let's take a look at the standings coming into this race, and we'll ride on board for with Kincott for it. That's actually the pro standings. Here's your amateur standings. Alvis was only 3 points back, and currently he would pass Kincott, but we may figure in the drop week after this week, so that would change things. Karim Hussein then would be next in line, but Karim is actually just 1 spot behind Bradley Alvis, so he certainly wouldn't take over. Matthew O'Leary, who'd be next in line, well, he had that spin. He is now 6th. He might take over, maybe. I don't think he's got enough points necessarily over Alvis to take that spot away. Alvis being 14th, O'Leary being 6th, so then it should still be Alvis in the lead currently. But then Ilya Speaker is, let's see, where is he running? Ilya is actually, wow, way deep in the field, 9th spot, as he pitted very early. He had issues at the very start of the race, but then John Kroom, 43 points back. Finally, you find somebody who's having a good, Aubrey Kundle, 31 points back at 7th. Finally, you find somebody who is having a good day, as Aubrey leads. John Kroom is 2nd. The Mark Scott is currently in the 8th spot. So then you find guys who are having good days. This is a really, really bizarre round already.
Absolutely, and there's still so much more of this race left to unpack, Andrew. Still over half the race to go. We still have pit stops, and we're gonna see these drivers battle through, maybe the far end of their tire grip as well, and see what these drivers do with less tire grip than I guess they'd want.
Blake Scott is pretty close to Brian Long as we get closer to the pit stops here for the AM driver. Stephen Finch, actually, will be one of the first to come on down the pit lane. A rather important stop here. We'll get an idea of just how long these pit stops may be today, and we'll see if Finch takes tires or not. As we're about halfway into this amateur race, it does not go up on jacks. Robert Gambill comes into the pit lane. We'll see what he does. So Gamble in. Will he go up on the jacks for aerokinetics? He will not. Now Finch down and away, 13.78 seconds in the box for fuel only. And Gamble should be just about the same. The Mercedes, though, might drink a little more fuel. That naturally aspirated V8. Look at that. I mean, nearly identical. 13.78 to a 13.7. Sorry, 13.77 to a 13.78. That is impressive.
Absolutely. I'd expect that we're at the point now, maybe on the shorter end of that fuel window, where maybe you can come in and it's kind of just a fill up to the end, and that's why the times came out to the exact same, or the calculation just mathed out exactly right for both drivers, and that's kind of more the method I expect these drivers to take. Really, also just the fuel only stops. We've seen all the struggles right now. If you're into a groove right now, just take the shorter stop, take the fuel only. Don't affect too much. I know the weight of the car is going to definitely feel different, but don't do much more than what you have to do at this point. If you're in a rhythm, in a groove, you just hold on to that as best as you can.
Well, yeah, the cars now as well are up off of the ground a little bit more. They have more tire pressure. They have a bit more ride height that way, so they should theoretically handle better over the curbs and have fewer problems out of corners like 130R. Here's a look on board of Blake Scott after his issue in 130R laps ago. He started second, and between him starting second, having that spin, and wow, now going purple, and the spin earlier from Matthew O'Leary, that has just given things away to some other drivers in this race, as it's a flash of the windshield wipers at a turn one there for Blake Scott. Here's a look at Matthew O'Leary, though, coming into the pit lane. And he is not alone. Here comes Dominic Turcotte, as well as Chris Winstone. So the pit window has officially been kicked wide open. O'Leary, let's see how long it is in the box for him. 13, 14, 24. A bit of a longer time in the box. Interesting for our pole sitter this evening. Winstone still in the box. It's going to be 13, 14, 15 seconds for him. 16.18. A much longer stop for Turcotte. It was a 15.38. Interesting. Some of these guys pitting a little bit later are actually taking much more fuel. As here's Sean Patterson into the 20s almost. Yeah, there we go. Into the 20s as he takes tires.
Yep. He's taking tires.
He must have taken all four.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So we'll have to keep an eye then on Patterson to see how he fares with the fresh tires. And I was gonna comment then on O'Leary entering his pit box. He got really close to that garage wall, I guess the inside pit wall right there, and then angled his car out, which I thought was gonna be a help, and obviously maybe it helped him on the exit. But do you think that cost him any time?
It's hard to say. There's so many variables. I've learned more and more to make fewer guarantees behind the mic with these races and these pit strategies. What we do see, though, is our race leaders, through Casio Triangle, Aubrey Kundle, John Kroom, I think former teammates here. But I will say, Aubrey Kundle, I should have been more up to date with this. He's been with the Wrong Stuff Racing, I believe, all season. He's had some interesting paint schemes from them, some kind of synth wave, whatever you want to call it, aesthetics. It's one of the more traditional black and pink cars for him this evening, as Petit will go purple, but a good look for Kundle with those bright blue rims and the switch over to the BMW. Mark Scott comes into the pit lane. He's joined by Zachariah Rosar, who is currently up on the jacks, taking at least a couple of tires. Mark Scott comes into the picture just behind him. And worth talking about, when we talk about tires, we may not be talking about all four. We've learned over the last few weeks that when these guys do take tires, it is often going to be for just two, whether that's two right sides, two fronts, two left sides. We don't know exactly, as That was an interesting pass. Sully Sad in the pit lane, just past Mark Scott. That is really interesting. Sully Sad, this may be a career day for car 079 from Azatec Sim Sports.
We'll have to see then how it pays out and how it pans out for Sully right now in the 20th position, but of course still many stops to go. And this could pay huge dividends here.
Very, very interesting the way this race continues to unfold like a piece of beautiful origami. Does that one work? Does that fit kind of here for Japan?
Yeah, it'll work. Yeah.
Here's Blake Scott chasing down Brian Long, separated by only a couple of tenths. And Long also over at the Wrong Stuff, been a longtime member of that team. Of course, Blake Scott pioneering his own team with his father, Mark Scott. And oh, that was sketchy for Brian. Here comes a move from Blake. And pass complete.
Wow. That was huge. Great commitment from Blake, able to send it down up the inside, and then comes into the pit lane as well, just for good measure.
Isn't that always so satisfying? You pass somebody, you pit immediately, and there you're able to hold them up now as well. So they're behind you when you guys make the pit stop, technically. That is so satisfying for a driver. So props there to Blake Scott getting the pass made, then coming in for service. John Kroom is also in from second spot, leaving Aubrey Kundle on the racetrack. You see another driver heading on out. Joe Nagy comes on. David Stevenson will come on in the Ford. Oh, and he's missed the pit box as Darnell Williams goes purple.
How about that?
Darnell in car 314 from Moradness, an Audi. All right.
Right now in that 8th position as well. Has Darnell pitted yet?
He has not.
So the fuel is pretty light in that car. The tires may be at their optimal temp with the track temp as it is, and Darnell is feeling himself right now.
That is still very surprising. We have never, ever talked about Darnell Williams yet. One of the newer drivers of the series, it seems like, putting the Moradness colors to good use. That is a flying Audi right now, as that last lap was a 1:59.202. Which is better than, I believe, Blake Scott, who had the previous fastest lap time at a 1:49.495. And actually now Nagy's gone quicker at a 1:59.467. And Kyle Petit, I think, had most recently actually taken the purple lap time at a 1:59.268. So consider it nearly 7 100ths rather for Williams over Paty. That is still very impressive. Here's Aubrey Kundle, your race leader. We'll see if he pits this time. I would imagine so. 14 minutes to go. He can't go much longer, and yes, he will come into the pit lane. Oh, and Williams has binned it. I think. He was slow at least. Maybe he didn't bin it. Maybe he had a blink, actually. His speed was exactly 0 for a moment. Maybe he just had a blink, which is still concerning. Obviously, it means his race is still intact. But his speed came across timing and scoring at exactly 0 for a moment, and that is always concerning. It usually means a driver has crashed. Thankfully, he has not crashed. Here's Kundle. Long will come in. Everybody's going to come in. Kyle Paty, Logan Boone, Bradley Alvis, Karim Hussein, Joe Nagy. Everybody coming on in on lap 14 of 21. And Kundle heads back out. Where's John Kroom? He's headed down the front straightaway. And Kundle's pit stop will keep him ahead of car 455 for the race lead. Everybody else sorting out behind.
And here's where the money is made right here. You know, who can capitalize the most with these pit stops, with how long you're sitting in the stall and take advantage of maybe some lower fuel amounts, and who can take advantage on the in and out laps. Right here where they merge out these out laps, getting the most, getting the clean air, or getting right into a pack of cars could be the difference between a few spots.
Just 12.5 minutes to go. You're watching Zach Rosar, Kyle Paty, a couple of Lamborghinis chase down the red Ferrari of Logan Boone, who falls in behind Blake Scott, who is now 4th position. Then Brian Long is 3rd. And Matthew O'Leary has dropped down, meanwhile, to the 8th spot. Bradley Alvis to 9th. Sully Sad into the top 10 ahead of Mark Scott. And again, this may be a career day for car 079. We rarely, ever talk about Sully Sad to the top 10. a fantastic effort here from Sully. This is really, really cool to see. I'm not sure what his career best finish is so far in the North American Racing League, but I can tell you that this is going to be one of the best of them.
Absolutely, and well-deserving. Has played the strategy right to this point. Now has the task of trying to hold on. He has Mark Scott, Stephen Finch, David Stevenson, those likes behind, and they're not too far behind, all within 1 second of one another behind. And here's a pass there for the 6th position. Is that Petit on Rosar?
It is for 6th. Yeah, the Rockefeller Racing Lamborghini moves on ahead of Rosar, and Karim Hussein now is off pace in the Mercedes. For SimCity Racing, I believe their lone amateur entry in the North American Racing League this season, and he will drop down to 18th spot. He was so good in the opening rounds back at Road America and VIR, and since has just kind of fallen off. But the race is not over. There's still so much that is going to change, I think, in these last few minutes. Everybody's starting to race a little bit harder. I know for the most part, the race has kind of panned out, so maybe some of these guys will lay back a little bit, but there is still so much for so many drivers to race for in these closing moments. And let's not forget that our leaders are only 8/10, 9/10 apart, and now approaching lap traffic. Kroom is less than a second back.
Well, here we go. We race on into the final 10 minutes. This could be shaping up into something pretty nicely. Kundal is that lap traffic in front of Kundal. This could play a huge factor.
And they'll head up to the hairpin here, trailing one of the orange BMWs from Move Over Racing. That is number 70, Philip Bedurka. And Philip is going to have to move over, pun intended in this case, here soon to get out of the way of the race leaders. That time is coming down now, under 7/10.
Still sitting in front of Kundal. John Kroom is eating that margin up, has halved it now, and still Kundal is not close enough to make a move, has not forced a way around the lapped Lamborghini.
Bedurka is going to have to move, I think, down to 130R. You've got to get out of the way at this point. It's a straightaway. Plenty of time to yield to your race leaders inside of 10 minutes to go. There is no such move. And Bedurka will stay ahead. What this does do is give draft to Kundal, but now you definitely have to get out of the way. Here comes... Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
wow.
Oh.
Wow. Meanwhile, Brian Long actually just lost a spot to Blake Scott. Let's get a replay here, and then we'll see the pass. As they pass the destroyed number 70 into 130R. That was a lot to try and take in right there.
And while I know Bedurka didn't necessarily do anything wrong, being in this position,
there's blue flag here. There's been a blue flag since at least the hairpin.
yeah, half a lap.
And here into 130, or sorry, into the Casio Triangle. Frankly, he does brake and get hit. I think he could have been further over. I think you see actually the pass there on the left side. We'll see that in a moment. This is interesting. I really think as a lap driver, technically, as you mentioned, Emerson, he doesn't really do anything wrong. He waits until a heavy braking zone, but he absolutely could have lifted on the back straightaway, let him go by well before this ever was a possibility and not impacted the leaders. And then Blake Scott goes on by, and it's right here, very, very close margins, and that was just set up by a good run from Blake Scott. He gets by Brian Long into the braking zone there for the Casio Triangle. Oh man, that was a lot to try and take in right there.
What a move then from Blake Scott, and that'll be a nice action shot to look back on later. The overtake with the car in the wall.
Yeah, maybe our rookie social media ace, Zach Lindgren, can take a look at that one and get that one out on our social pages. That's definitely one of the more unique looks I think you'll get from this evening at Suzuka. Inside of 8 minutes to go, and Zach Rosar has spun around in Spoon.
Oh man, he was well inside the top 10, having a great day. I know was just overtaken by Petit, but was still gonna hang in there for what it looked like 7. Had at least a margin over O'Leary, and now finds himself back in that 15th position.
Yeah, 15th. That is huge. What that does do is bring Sully Sad back into the top 10 as John Kroom goes purple. Sad had recently been overtaken by Mark Scott in the Audi from Scott Racing, which now puts Sully in contention of losing positions to Stephen Finch and David Stevenson. Stevenson, by the way, 12th spot in that Ford GT, closer and closer to a top 10, though, as 11th and 10th are just out that windscreen. Takes a look for turn one. It's a block there from Finch.
Wow. That's a little bit of a late defense, but the defense made there from Finch. Stevenson now has to wait through the S's, and I just wonder what that Ford is going through. I really don't know what that Ford handles like, to be honest, and I'm sure it's not doing all that well in dirty air, but trying to get the run here through, I believe that was turn 3.
Yeah, through the S's. And up to Dunlop this time around this long, just sweeping left-hander into the Degner curves. Stevenson will have an opportunity, it looks like, maybe on the right side into Degner 1. He tries to get a mistake there out of Finch, and it works! What a setup, and Finch, hard, well, not terribly hard, but into the barriers there out of Degner 2, and he spins around right in front of some traffic. There goes Joe Nagy and Zach Rosar, and that car is destroyed. That is suspension damage. That is race ending for Stephen Finch.
That's too bad. Finch, again, was having a great race just outside the top 10.
Blake Scott! This is problems. Logan Boone! This is out of Spoon!
Petit a fourth!
Petit goes by both as Brian Long gets the best of them as well. And now Matthew O'Leary and Bradley Alvis are going to have a shot. Let's watch this unfold before we get a replay. Boone going to take a look to the inside of 130R. Scott maybe having damage. Oh, he's out over the curbing. Now Boone backs up to O'Leary. Watch this into the Casio Triangle. 2x2, 2 rows deep. And Boone, I thought maybe he just disqualified himself from incidents, but he stays in the race. Here comes O'Leary as Scott has to pit.
Yeah, that thing did not look like it was handling too well. And O'Leary now into the top 5. Alvis, all of a sudden, he has his hand in this. He can still muster up a top 5 after what was looking like a pretty gloom race for him.
O'Leary takes 5th over Logan Boone. Let's take a replay and try and find even more of what just happened. The answer is a lot. That's the short way to put it. But let's go back and check this out for Blake Scott and Kyle Petit. Actually, Brian Long here, this was already happening. That's how far ahead they were and how far they backed up. Let's get another look. And this is going to be a lone issue, it looks like, for Blake Scott that turns into a much larger issue. Car 367, watch him here. The Audi into Spoon curve, and that car is going to get loose right here. It looks like off of the curbing. The car comes around. Here comes Brian Long. Logan Boone checks up and slides into him. And from there, they make more contact, and that likely damaged the 367 of Blake Scott. And it all compounds up to 130R.
My goodness, out of all that, the new inductees into the top 5 of Petit and O'Leary, but Andrew, that also moves Stevenson into 10th.
And this was the replay of everything going down through the Casio Triangle, and then eventually Blake Scott has to peel off. But you're right, that moves the Ford of Stevenson into the top 10, as now we've got a long line of cars that actually include Stevenson, all racing for 5th through 10th spots, as Brian Long gets passed up by Kyle Petit through 130R. A mistake out of the BMW promotes Petit, who is 12th in the standings, into 3rd spot. O'Leary leads this train of cars into the Casio Triangle. Look at them all. You've got O'Leary, Boone, Alvis, Scott, Sad, and Stevenson up here in this long train motoring around Suzuka. Just 3 laps to go. Let's try and get a recap on where everybody is and where they are in the championship, because Aubrey Kundal currently leads, and he enters this race, Emerson, from down in the 7th position in standings, 31 points out. Then second place, John Kroom. He currently runs just behind Aubrey Kundal. This could be a nice fight for the race win here in just one moment. Kroom enters this race 43 points back in 8th position. On down to 3rd spot, Kyle Petit currently enters this race in the 12th spot, 53 points out, 1 spot behind Scott Angelo, 2 spots behind Michael Pusick. So definitely move Petit into the top 10 at the very least. And then you get guys like Brian Long, who enters today, let's see, well outside of the top 10, it looks like 13th position. Matthew O'Leary enters this race in the 4th spot in points, only 21 points back. We could have Matthew O'Leary on top of the standings. That's tough to say. All while these two are about to race for the race win.
And this, of course, somewhat set up by the Lamborghini of Philip Bederka, but Kroom has not lost any touch to Kundal ever since.
And then you have all this with Logan Boone on the back end of Matthew O'Leary and that long line back to Stevenson. They're all within about 5/10 of each other through from 5th down through 10th position. And it looks like we are going to take the white flag this time by. And yes, we definitely will. We're inside of 2 minutes. White flag should be waving from one of these flag stands. Oh, I see Barney down there. You can hardly see him here, but he is down there. You can just see him at the bottom of that shot, as we will take the white flag presented by Whiplash Simcams here at Suzuka Circuit. John Kroom, it's a 4/10 gap.
And here we go. You spent the entire 40-minute race setting up for this opportunity, got a little bit of help. It's time to take advantage of it. You got to find, you've had all this time to figure out where the weaknesses are, where you can maximize your exits, and now it's go time. You had all that time, let's say 19 laps of practice. We're on lap 20. It's time to race it all out. Kroom has got to make that move sooner rather than later. He's got to set himself up nicely to do so as well, though.
And he took less fuel than Aubrey Kundal, so he could be trying to nurse fuel a little bit as we've got a side-by-side battle through the S's. Logan Boone loses a spot to Bradley Alvis, and this is very important for the standings, as Alvis could very much use these points. As he enters this evening in the 2nd spot, he may take over the points lead as he's going to outscore Brent Kingcott by a lot. And oh, that was a dive look from Mark Scott into the Degner curves. Up front, John Kroom going to have an opportunity. This is up to Spoon for the final time. He's got to have something beginning here and down the back straightaway. So you've got to set up Spoon for a good exit and then get a run to 130R.
He goes for a little bit of a lunge to close that gap. Can he stay in the slipstream? A little wide.
But Kundal's out wide. Here comes Kroom. He's going to have an opportunity, it looks like, inside of 2.5 tenths, inside of a quarter of a second, and closing. This is 130R. Kroom out wider. He's going to try and get a launch for the Casio Triangle. He falls back a little bit. Is he going to try a big-time attempt here? The answer is no. Is there any mistake from Aubrey Kundal? The answer to that? Also no. Car 653 is going to go to victory lane in Japan. Aubrey Kundal back on top of the North American Racing League Amateur Division.
What a battle. There's a car spinning behind. That's Mark Scott.
He gets back onto the course in 10th behind Sully Sad, and he nearly straight lines the 079. Stevenson in the Ford GT is going to move into 8th position, Emerson. How about that?
Oh my goodness.
It's not over. Joe Nagy, Michael Busick to the final couple of corners. This is for 14th spot. How about Chris Winstone, Nicholas Sykes, and Dominic Angelicchio? Angelicchio suffers from MS, and he's going to make a pass on the final lap into 130R. Sykes, is he out of fuel? Here's Armando Bayron, Ilya Speaker, a 10th apart as they work through 130R. J.R. Gregory, Ricardo Delgado, he goes off track. J.R. Gregory going to get passed up. Contact there. Angelo goes by. Gregory gives up 2 spots. Tags Delgado, but he hangs on. And there goes Angelo and Delgado. No, Delgado's got a pit.
Oh, no.
He's going to finish outside of the top 20. We're talking about around the 20th, 22nd positions. Here's Gamble and Bowerman. 27th, 28th.
These guys are all over one another up the back straightaway, and that is how they come across the line. Oh, my goodness. The car stopped at the start-finish.
And Darnell Williams, who I think held the fastest lap of this race, finishes 29th. Wow. Bill Pisek will come around and complete this race. Corey Groves will be the final car to finish. If that did not get your blood pumping, honestly, go to urgent care. Go to the go straight to the hospital. Get yourself checked out. I don't think you've got a heart. That was one heck of a finish.
there was so much, and you know, you tried your best to keep up with it, Andrew. And I think there's still a lot we missed. That was amazing.
And the final car to finish is Corey Groves in 32nd. Guadagnoli gets dropped down to 34th. Delgado and Darnell Williams get dropped out with black flags. Williams to 30th, Delgado to 31st. Let's go down your entire finishing order after 40 minutes of racing here in just one moment. Just incredible. Simply incredible. Shout out to all of you AM drivers. That was fantastic, guys. And just wow. That was amazing. Let's take a look at your race results. Your top 10 out front, Aubrey Kundle with 17 laps out of 20 led. A simply fantastic performance from the time that the lead was presented to him, like a beautiful wrapped up gift. And then John Kroom, unfortunately not able to make a move there on the final lap. He will finish second spot. Kyle Petty goes third. Very important days for all of these drivers out front, whether it's Brian Long, Matthew O'Leary, Bradley Alvis, Logan Boone, even David Stevenson in the Ford GT. So many points to be had for those guys, and I think that is a career first top 10 for Sully Sad. I may be mistaken, but what a day for him as Mark Scott goes 10th.
11th, we find Dominique Turcotte there. Zach Rosar, who was well inside the top 10. He had an issue there late. He'll actually recover up to 12 from 15. Brett Kingcott, of course, came in today with the points lead, and some misfortunes there early. He'll finish 13th. Joe Nagy 14th. Michael Pusick finishes 15th. Kareem Hussein also up there in the point settings. Had a rough go today. He'll finish 16th. Chris Winstone finishes 17th. Dominique Angeliquio finishes 18th. From Beharan finishes 19th. And Ilias Speaker from making contact with the pit attenuator will finish 20th.
Worth mentioning, by the way, Aubrey Kundle took the fastest lap of the race at a 1:59.028. Finishing 21st is Nicholas Sykes in car 42, then Scott Angelo and J.R. Gregory in that fantastic finish there with Clarence Rosa and others. Excuse me, Sean Patterson 25th, Robert Gambill 26th, very close between those two. Then Billy Barrowman on his own, then Don Gottlieb there in 28th, Bill Pisek in 29th, and Darnell Williams. It looks like a black flag relegates him to 30th.
31st will be Ricardo Delgado. Corey Groves finishes 32nd. That wraps up the lead lap. One lap down is Mike Braun, Robert Guadagnoli, Kenneth Michael all finish one lap down, 33rd through 35th. 36th is Blake Scott, Aaron Beaver 37th, Stephen Finch 38th, Philip Durka finds himself on the wall entering the Casio Triangle and finishes 39th. William Valdez 40th.
Then Bruce Jackson and Jeff Castillo wrap up the field in 41st and 42nd. And let's bring in today's amateur race winner, Aubrey Kundle, in what was nearly a thriller. But first, how did your race go up until the last few laps? Of course, you kind of inherited the race lead there, Aubrey, and took off with it running.
Yeah, no, it was a good race, just trying to be consistent. The track felt a little slick, so it was kind of hard to push. You'd start pushing pretty hard, and then the car just sliding around a lot. So just tried to kind of take it easy, and it worked out.
And what happened from your perspective there with Phil Bedurka into the Casio Triangle?
Yeah, I think we were really, I was trying to be kind of close to him so I could make it into the chicane. And on my camera view, it was a little bit of net code, but we were probably a little too close there.
And then how about the last lap? John Kroom advancing inside of a couple of tenths. What was that like? Just trying to make sure you hit your marks.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. So John drove well. So there was sections of the track I could tell he was catching me. Then there were some sections where I could kind of pull back away a little bit. So it was kind of like that the whole race. It was fun.
And we're officially into the back half of the schedule. In fact, now 5 rounds of 8 complete. Spa next up for you guys. Well, how does that feel?
Yeah, it feels good. I like Spa. It's a good track to race on, so we'll see how it goes. This race just kind of wanted to have a good race. I've had a couple bad races the last couple, so it's nice to turn it around.
Well, there you go. Aubrey Kundle from Victory Lane this evening in Japan. Congratulations, Aubrey. We'll hopefully talk to you next week in Belgium.
Yep, thanks, guys.
And finishing second place, Emerson, here's John Kroom for a quick word.
And John Kroom, oh so close. Found yourself with a chance there on that final lap, but what more could you have done?
Well, I could have sent it a little more, but I was scared that I'd probably lose it. Aubrey did so good, and I just want to say, first of all, finally I get to the broadcast room. So this is new. I didn't even know how to do it. I had to figure that out. But
I was gonna say,
glad to
John,
be
it
here.
sounds like a completely brand new voice. I don't think I've ever heard you. This is a first.
I'm
A welcome
surprised you
first.
couldn't hear me. I'm surprised you couldn't hear me cussing somewhere through there. But happy to be here, and I want to give a shout out to all the old guys racing. I'm probably one of the oldest guys on our team, and so I had to give a shout out. I'm 58, so all the guys, at least we can still get toward the front, so it's good.
Well, hey man, age is nothing but a number, because that number was 2 today. You finished P2 in that Ferrari. Walk us through the race. Looked like this track was very challenging for so many drivers today. What was something that you were trying to keep your mind on, and how did you not get caught out by like any of the curbs?
Was just not, the Ferrari it's fast there, but when you have to be really easy on the brakes, and some of those it wants to slide so easy, and so to keep that from happening for 40 minutes was a challenge. And then trying to go super fast, because Aubrey would get about a second in front of me, and I would have to try to pull it back in, and there was a couple of spots I felt like I could come in, but I couldn't. I was never fast enough to make a move on him. So, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, there you go. And then next week, you have, I believe it's Spa coming up next. How you feeling about that?
Gosh, I'm going to be out of town next week, so I can't even do it. But yeah, I also want to say, Milan Harris wasn't able to make it here tonight. I practice with him all the time. We had bad thunderstorms, here in the Southeast, and knocked out his power, and I think his power's still out. So, and he was so fast coming into this. He practiced and was so ready for this race. So I hate that for him.
All right, that's unfortunate to hear. But for you, John, congratulations on the second place finish. Glad to finally hear from you. And, well, I guess you're not running next week, but best luck to you on the rest of the season, man.
Hey, thanks so much.
And John Kroom touches on a great point. There were some scary storms, and still some scary storms throughout the Southeast United States, namely in Georgia, Alabama, I think even through Tennessee, South Carolina, into North Carolina, where I live. By all means, stay safe, stay weather aware, get a NOAA weather radio, stay observant of NOAA on social media. I personally follow Ryan Hall, y'all, on YouTube and Twitter. I would very much recommend following his channel and just seeing what's going on. In fact, he was streaming earlier today. I'm not sure if he's still streaming. I can check that here in a moment. But streaming live free weather coverage. So if you're in one of those areas, honestly, I would much rather you watch Ryan Hall, y'all, if he's still streaming, or another weather service, than watch us right now, because there are some scary storms that swept through Georgia earlier today, and it sounds like it affected one of our league members, at least in a relatively benign way. I'd rather somebody, not have power than unfortunately have their home taken out or damaged by one of these storms. There are some very, very scary situations going through the Southeast with some of these storms, and it's not often you get these tornadoes in January, but we're getting them this month and this year for sure. Quickly, let's take a look at our upcoming broadcast here at Pit Stop TV as the amateurs wrap it up. We still got the pros to go here tonight, so we're not done. But if this is it for you, Monday evening, join us for the Southern National Motorsports Park with Paine-Built Legends on Monday at 7 Eastern. Then next Thursday, we go to Spa for the North American Racing League before the Bull Ring comes up for Paine-Built Legends on January the 23rd. And go ahead and follow us along on social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the whole lot of them. That'll do it for the amateur race, but we still have plenty of racing left to go here from virtual Suzuka Circuit. Don't go anywhere. We've got pros coming up next.
Are you struggling to keep up with the top drivers? Are you ready to get faster and more consistent? If so, it doesn't have to take as long as you might think. With the VRS competitive subscription, you'll have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything you need to analyze your driving and see exactly where you're losing time. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off your lap times. When it comes to your equipment holding you back, the powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the best drivers in the world, including Jordan Caruso, Tim Ryan, Jordi Lopez, and Oscar Piastri. It's no secret that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also the best value for money. So if you're looking to upgrade your wheelbase to direct drive and want highly adjustable, ultra-realistic pedals, VRS is your answer. You can get better, faster, and more consistent in less time and for less money. You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. Just go to the URL or the button below and learn why the best use VRS. Are you struggling to keep up with the top drivers? Are you ready to get faster and more consistent? If so, it doesn't have to take as long as you might think. With the VRS competitive subscription, you'll have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything you need to analyze your driving and see exactly where you're losing time. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off your lap times. When it comes to your equipment holding you back, the powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the best drivers in the world, including Jordan Caruso, Tim Ryan, Jordi Lopez, and Oscar Piastri. It's no secret that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also the best value for money. So if you're looking to upgrade your wheelbase to direct drive and want highly adjustable, ultra-realistic pedals, VRS is your answer. You can get better, faster, and more consistent in less time and for less money. You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. Just go to the URL or the button below and learn why the best use VRS.
Welcome back to the virtual Suzuka circuit in the virtual Suzuka Japan. Glad you're joining us this afternoon. Maybe I think we're still in the morning here in the sim, but this evening here in the States, of course, for more racing at Suzuka. Right back to the same place, and now we get to kind of reset and redo everything, this time with the pros and 10 extra minutes of racing, Emerson.
Absolutely. Again, if anything, last race showed us that this is going to be absolutely wild. These drivers are going to have to be watching out for just about everything in all aspects of the race, on cold tires, in the middle of the run, and at the end of the race. And the competitiveness in this field is, of course, as high as ever. And we get to take a look at the track map once again. It's just such a flowy lap here, from the S's to Dunlap to the Degner curve. The hairpin really is, I think, the only place on the track that really breaks up maybe the flow of the lap, maybe the Cassia Triangle as well. But this is a high-speed circuit, pretty much outside of those two sections. You look at Spoon Curve, we saw a lot happen there. Up the long back straightaway, brilliant for setting up a passing opportunity in the Cassia Triangle. And of course, the Cassia Triangle, it feels a little awkward, but it's a nice little lead up to the start-finish line.
You know, I would say there's 3 slow points on this racetrack, those being Degner 2, the hairpin, and of course the Casio Triangle. I would say each one of those really break up the flow in a good way. You need breaks from the flow. You have a very, very sweeping opening sector here at Suzuka through turns 1 and 2, into the S's and up around Dunlop into Degner 1, and then that Degner 2 curve. I think it serves a really good purpose, and it's a mistake producer, as we saw in that amateur race, rather, and then up to the hairpin. It's a nice passing opportunity if you're daring enough to force it. Otherwise, it's, again, a nice mistake producer. Really keeps drivers honest in pretty much a one-lane corner. Up through 200R, around Spoon Curve, it again gets very sweeping into 130R, which I think will be the most exciting portion of tarmac this evening. Let's take a look at your pro standings. Gustavo Ariel works into tonight with a 19-point lead over Tim Matzke, who led the practice session moments ago. Matthew Dench enters tonight in third, Juan Blaina in fourth, and Scott Reister, a top 5 points driver so far this season. You can see the rest of the top 10 for the pros. Over on the amateur side in purple, you've got Scott Kimbrough out front by 36 points, and he just continues to open his points lead.
Absolutely. We saw major points implications in the amateur race today, but we can look at it's looking pretty wide open, or I'm sorry, pretty wide margin in the pro-am category with Kimbrough and Mitchell Johnson. But again, that can definitely change. It gets really close. Second on back there, Christopher Hill and Miguel Colon are tied. Diego Era and Ryan Amon are 1 point apart, 2 points apart. Justin Hall and Brent Cook. Also with David Schwartz and Lucas Souza, I mean, there is battles all throughout the top 10 in the Pro-Am side that can get jumbled up big time today.
That's a look at your point standings. Let's get down trackside for some car choice recaps. There's a lot to talk about, and it all starts with one word, and that starts with an L. Lamborghini. A lot of them in this field. Although there you do see the Brabham Esports entry of Stephen McDonald in an Audi. Then a Mercedes for Joel Singleton. So far I'm a liar, but here's another Lambo for Matthew Dench. For Saavedra, it's an Audi. For Townend, a Lambo. For Barrera, we have our first BMW in the session. For Fabio Zamperlini, look at that. A Lambo, then a BMW for Pierre Thompson, a Lambo for Reister, a Mercedes for Deus, an Audi, rather, for Toby Soriano. Then for Mitchell Johnson, it's a BMW. For Martin Crisp, though, in SimCity Racing, it's over to a Lambo. For Rob Rodriguez Jr. in PT Autosport and Evolution Racing, it is a Lambo. For Neil Bledsoe, it's a BMW. For Era, it's a BMW. For Cook, it's a Lambo. For Denizen, a BMW. And Emerson, it just goes on and on, Emerson. We do have a Mercedes here for David Schwartz, our top Pro-Am driver in practice, but a lot of Lambos in this field.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy looking at the entry list, Andrew. Seeing that, we had like the one Ford in the amateur race last race, and in that scenario, tonight is going to be, there's only one Ferrari in the field, if I'm not mistaken. It is going to be Lambo City here in Suzuka. But I can't wait to see how these, the Lambos, I guess the BMWs would be the runner-up in car choice today. Here's a Porsche, though, and John Sedlak.
Yeah, we do actually have a Porsche from Firelight Esports, a team that I joined earlier this week. A shout-out to those guys watching this evening. IMB Racewear on the side of that number 203. It's exciting to see Sedlak over there in that new organization and see how Firelight.gg is going to get going in this world of iRacing. And one of our few Porsches. I applaud the effort for John Sedlak sticking with this Porsche 911 GT3R. It has been an uphill battle for sure since Road America to try and keep this Porsche on track, and it will continue to be so. On down the list, it's a Lamborghini for Jackson Resende. Ricardo Rico, though, in a Porsche as well. So we've got a couple of them out there as, again, a very interesting decision here for the Porsche for Ricardo Rico. On down the line, Lucas Souza in a Lamborghini, and at least first of the line, Scott Reister is your provisional pole sitter. Eric Staropoli in the Lamborghini, and there we go, a new purple lap time for Hunter McDaniel. Bobby Flack out here in a Lambo. Rodrigo Laprido in a Ferrari, one of our few Ferraris in the field. Carlos Beretta in a BMW, checking in this evening for Texica Racing by TK, and the times are flowing in. Bruno De Carmo to the top of the grid in a Lamborghini.
And right there with him, I say right there with him, Resende went second quickest at the same time, but nearly a 3/4 second
Oh
off.
my gosh.
That is huge for Bruno De Carmo.
But how about Brabham Esports today? Hunter McDaniel and Stephen McDonald both in the top 5, currently 3rd and 4th spots. McDonald has slowly been getting stronger. Hunter McDaniel has been a mainstay of this North American Racing League for a couple of seasons now. Very impressed so far in this early bit of this qualifying session from these two, running 3rd and 4th in their qualifying session. Very, very much impressed by Brabham Esports currently. We'll see if that holds, though, through this session. Tim Matzke, by the way, the slowest qualifier. How many times have we said that? That is not a sentence that comes out of our mouths very often, but slowest currently, and we'll see how that changes. But Matthew Dench is back there with him. These guys just trying to warm their tires up as these temps are still pretty low. In fact, colder.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, by 1 degree, it will be cooler. In this session to start. Gustavo Ariel crossed the line, and I believe that's starting a timed lap because he probably spent the last couple minutes warming up those tires big time.
Gustavo Ariel now the slowest qualifier so far. Blake Townend on track for his Lamborghini and RD Simsport. Justin Barrera out there for Shut Up and Drive It. Pierre Thompson in his number 18. It looks like a nod to Ken Block, and let's give this car a moment. This is a beautiful tribute for Pierre Thompson to run today. Hopefully he runs this the rest of the season. I really enjoy this. And of course, the racing world losing Ken Block right before, I guess right as we welcomed in 2023. A very sad moment for a lot of us, and I don't necessarily owe my affinity for rallycross racing to Ken Block as a lot of others do. I definitely looked up to Ken Block the same as anybody else, but I know many in the racing world devastated by the loss of a proper legend. And his Gymkhana videos, I don't want to say Gymkhana, his Gymkhana videos certainly are going to live on for years and years, if not forever. You know how I talked about the Porsche, though, being an odd choice for Ricardo Rico and John Sedlak? Well, Ricardo Rico is now on pole currently by 2/10 and change. Where did this come from?
Oh, man.
And John Sedlak, meanwhile, I'm looking for him on this list. I know
21st.
21st, okay. And for a pro, that is a little ways off. It's interesting, 2.468 seconds. Hopefully this third lap is able to move him up the board a little bit more, ahead of maybe Diego Era and Lucas Souza, maybe Eric Sarapoli, some of these Pro-Am guys, and at least tail onto the back end of the pro field. We'll see if Sedlak is able to do so. We'll have to watch these two Porsches and how they do today. This is incredible.
This could be huge if they're the only two to really nail this car selection. And you know, I did think it was going to be more of a factor in this race, especially with the open sets, right? You know, you can obviously get a lot more out of a certain car if you maximize the setup, and these drivers are going to continue to learn over the course of the next couple weeks because the setup just dropped. The update just dropped a couple days ago. So plenty of time, I'm sure, to learn new things about the changes that continue to happen to these GT3 machines.
Rico dumps his final lap. Scott Reister will come across and wrap up his run. Matthew Dench, Bruno DeCarmo as well. Victor Miranda, though, will have an opportunity. He's the closest to Ricardo Rico currently. And suddenly, Miranda may be one of the best drivers in this race. And we've seen an off-season for him after running for a Porsche Cup Championship in the North American Racing League. Last season, they ran them. He's been fantastic ever since on iRacing. Just this season, a little bit off in these GT3 cars. Maybe this a return to greatness for Miranda. Down around the final corner to the start-finish line. Is it any faster? It is faster, but I don't think enough to take away pole. And the answer, well, it's not. What a lap, though, out of Victor Miranda there. A buzzer beater for sure. Hunter McDaniel goes to 8th. Miguel Colon to 9th as Tim Matzke jumps up into the top 10. Very important for him. Here's a look at Miguel Colon wrapping up his final lap, and other drivers trying to do so as well. Stacey Bertrand has finished her quali run, as you see John Sedlak, who is now 27th in the qualifying listing. Teague Ashburn, meanwhile, is 36th. Neil Bledsoe, 37th, who was in the top 10 in practice. That is a huge misstep. Bledsoe, he did not get a clean lap in at all. He was in the top 10. He was 9th in practice and is qualified 37th, 8 seconds off pace as Gustavo Ariel comes around, and he will go third.
Wow.
A statement with 10 seconds to go. I was going to say, something just didn't feel quite right. Not enough Texaco racing by TK Machine towards the top of the grid, and that has changed. Gustavo up to third alongside Victor Miranda in second, and Bruno De Carmo in fifth. Jax Resende, a solid qualifying effort as well. There we go, right back where they belong for sure. 50 minutes coming up. Emerson, let's go ahead and meet our starting grid. On pole, Ricardo Rico in car 51, a Porsche in 2023 on pole. How about that? For car 51, Victor Miranda will start from second. It's Gustavo Ariel and the Aussie Matthew Dench starting from third and fourth. Bruno De Carmo will start from fifth. Marco Saavedra from sixth position in an Audi. Starting seventh, another Audi. Tim Matzke behind the wheel. Toby Soriano will start from the eighth position. Hunter McDaniel will grid up in ninth for Brabham Esports. And Miguel Colon, a Pro-Am driver, just makes it into the top 10 for Pro-Am pole.
A bunch of Lamborghinis here with 11th and Scott Reister. 12th will be Jackson Resende. 13th, we will find Fabio Zamperlini in the 327 machine. It'll be Stephen McDonald starting 14th in the Audi. 15th, it'll be Martin Crisp. 16th, Dalton Zavadil. And back to row number 9, we'll find Scott Kimbrough in the Lambo. It'll be Mitchell Johnson in the BMW. And rounding out the top 20, it'll be Carlos Barreto in the BMW and David Schwartz in the Mercedes.
Starting 21st today, it's Corey Maxim in car 33 for TLDR. Starting 22nd, it's Bobby Flack in car 88. 23rd, it's Aerokinetics Lucas Souza for car 31. Rob Rodriguez Jr. grids up from 24th. 25th, it'll be Eric Sarapoli in car 93. Then Rodrigo Lapri will start from 26th position. Starting 27th, it's Diego Eda, one of the former AM top contenders, now in Pro-Am, finding some challenges this season, but Zach Diaz starts to his left side in 28th. To round out your top 30, John Sedlak for Firelight Esports will start from 29th. Ramon Vasquez will start 30th.
A couple BMWs here in row 16. It'll be Daniel Dennison in 31st. Stacy Bertrand starts 32nd. 33rd, we'll find Brent Cook and Justin Barrera will start 34th. Will Coffey starts 35th, and Joel Singleton rounds out row number 18 and 36th. 37th, it'll be Teague Ashburn, and Neil Bledsoe will start 38th. And rounding out the top 40, it'll be Juan Blanat in the 89 machine and Blake Townend in the 5.
3 more cars, Jason Allen in 41st, Thomas Rayleigh 42nd, and finally Pierre Thompson from 43rd spot. Here's your field as they work through the final couple of corners in the very, very short pace lap here at Suzuka. Ready to go racing for 50 minutes for the Pro class. Waiting on the green flag. Green is flying, we're off and away. Problems in the back, taking out Juan Blanat. This is a massive issue for one of the top drivers in this series. 41st position now. I think he may have had a pit lane start. I'm not sure, but massive issues for Juan Blanat as the rest of the field comes on into the Degner curves.
And here we go. We were all right in the. Oh, we got a contact coming into the Degner curves. Looks like most of the field will make their way through, though, unscathed.
Now out of the hairpin, you see the field file up and on and out. They'll head to turn 12 and on down to Spoon, or I guess up to Spoon Curve as Eda works wide there on the outside of Rodrigo Lapri. Just about 90 seconds elapsed in this race session as they work into Spoon and through Spoon for the first time. And onto that back straightaway. You see the entire field in a line now onto the backstretch. Here comes Ricardo Rico out front of Gustavo Ariel and Victor Miranda. They swapped spots. Saavedra now 4th, De Carmo 5th, Matzke 6th, and Soriano, McDaniel, Cologne, and Scott Rice are now into the top 10.
And here we go, approaching the first part that really caught out a bunch of the amateur guys.
Oh!
And there we go. We got one.
That's McDonald from Brabham.
Left side wall. Oh, no.
Another one.
Oh,
That's Bobby
man.
Flack from Empire. And he comes on to the racetrack right in front of Sedlak. Oh my goodness. Car 88, Bobby Flack trying to battle that damaged race car. That was not what we wanted out front. Meanwhile, your race leaders into turns 1 and 2. Lap 1 goes complete. Ricardo Rico out front with a strong opening margin in just the first lap. And you can see this battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. A couple of Lambos around an Audi.
Here we go. Now we're shaping up to really get into it here. I think the pros are obviously going to be a little more apt to deal with the cold tires. Now, a couple of them struggled there through 130R, but now we're really going to see these guys set themselves up. Notice this race is also 10 minutes longer, a 50-minute race. No need to go 100% right now. If you feel uneasy about the car, let the car come to you. And, of course, let the track time build up a little bit. We are starting about an hour later in sim time than the amateur race as well.
Mitchell Johnson a bit slow up out of the Degner curves. He gives up a couple of spots. Schwartz goes by. Here comes, it looks like Carlos Beretta. Zavadil also went by as, they hustle the hairpin a little bit. Corey Maxim there from TLDR in the white Lamborghini just behind. They sort that out, though, and continue on. Some of the best battles actually right here on screen. Corey Maxim going to put pressure here on the 021 of Mitchell Johnson, one of the top Pro-Am drivers of the season, moving over to a BMW today. The Lamborghini Huracan for Corey Maxim, and this is going to be a good fight.
Absolutely right in the thick of it here in the Pro-Am category for the 19th position overall. Up the hill, looks like Mitchell Johnson will hold station in the 130R.
A huge shout out to our partners here with the North American Racing League, VRS Virtual Racing School, Moradness and Moradness Squad, and JS Consulting, and John Sedlak. Love everything John Sedlak does for this league. Gustavo Ariel, fastest that time. He chucks into Ricardo Rico's lead by just a little bit. As here's a move and maybe a slowdown for Barreto. Carlos Barreto very off pace on the front straightaway to turn 1. He comes back up over in front of Rodrigo Lapri. And he will hang on to 20th position. As you can see, Rob Rodriguez Jr. and Diego Eda very close behind. John Sedlak, Daniel Denizen doing battle here. Aerokinetics looking up to the inside. And actually, that's Sedlak up to the inside. And one car off track for a moment. Will Coffey just hangs on in that 57 car. Brent Cook there as well in that bright blue Lamborghini. I love everything going on over Aerokinetics. I've worked with those guys as well. So this is kind of a fight that I really want both of these guys to pass the other, unfortunately. As, Sedlak! Oh, that was close. And it looks like
contact there.
Yeah, Denizen had to check up and out of it, and Sedlak took that spot back away. Very close, but they're not done.
Epic stuff going on here in the midfield. And Barreto, he fell all the way back to 24. I'd imagine that was a slowdown, but that looked like a really long slowdown, not just going a little wide over 130R. That looked like something more massive for Barreto.
And now Will Coffey, Brent Cook, nose to tail, ahead of Stacey Bertrand and Blake Townend. A lot of cars towards the back of this field trying to do battle early. Meanwhile, your race leaders to 130R this time. Let's hope this goes a bit more smoothly than in the amateur race. Matsky went way out there, but comes back on track. No issues there as Reister has a fight here with Jackson Resende. A couple of drivers right behind as well. And Matthew Dench and Fabio Zamperlini as they do battle with the former champion of Zamperlini has to give a spot up there to Matthew Dench for 12th.
Obviously, the experience of road racing on the sim is helping these guys out a lot more as well. But I'm starting to look at this like the track time being very similar to what we had in the amateur race. It may have just been more of the setups combined with the low tire pressures and low tire temps. But looks like the setups meant more of it anything for the several laps that we had mistakes out of the amateur guys.
Watching Scott Reister here try to hold off Jackson Resende. Let's go on board with a former champion, I believe. For a while, I knew exactly who had won championships in the series prior, and now I want to say Resende is a former champion, but I'm not so sure anymore. Regardless, Resende on the offense here wants to move into the top 10 and get past the 42 car of Reister. There's a change for position for third. Saavedra gets ahead of Victor Miranda into turn 10, the hairpin.
Yeah, great stuff to use that. That one point that a lot of these drivers look at is probably one of the slowest corner on the circuit. Find his way up into that final podium position. He's about 2 seconds back of Gustavo Ariel, but Victor Miranda slots into fourth. He's got his teammate directly behind. I would imagine not a lot of pressure coming there, and Miranda can kind of regroup and go at it again later on in the race, or maybe key it through 130R.
Miranda with a run. He will not look to the inside for 130R. Lets the Audi of Saavedra hang on to that corner. But this time into the Casio triangle. A little bit of pressure into that braking zone, but not close enough to make any kind of fight. As you can see, Bruno De Carmo hanging out there as well. And Scott Reister finally loses that spot. Contact, and oh no, he's gone around. But gets pushed back straight by Matthew Denge. Zamperlini goes off track. Here comes Crisp. 3 wide, and Zavadiel. No, that is Scott Kimbrough, the Pro-Am around the outside.
Kimbrough wanted to get a move on there. He's got Miguel Colon to go catch up the road. Kimbrough was on it to get through that incident and works his way out very nicely. I wonder if there's any damage there then to Scott Reister's machine as he was kind of pushed back forward. Looks like there's no apparent suspension damage, but we'll see how that handles over the course of the race.
And as you said that he bobbled through the S's, he's free for sure. It's hard to say if he has damage or not. Here's the onboard of Scott Reister. Let's watch. Let's take down the ticker as well. Watch the hands on the left side of the screen. And this will be telltale whether or not he's having issues. This area here. Sliding it there into the Degners. And here through the hairpin. The car looks okay so far, but he's definitely fighting it at the very least. And, you know, the Lambo is going to be on the aggressive side for sure, no matter what. But hopefully he's able to hang on. Problems in the back. Corey Maxim from TLDR. He is around, it looks like, out of the Degners here.
Yeah, I saw him dropping down the running order pretty quickly there, and he is still stopped there.
Let's go back and look at it. This is going to be a while leading up to it, but here is Corey Maxim. This is into the S's, or I guess through the back end of the S's, I should say. On board of them, he was all on his own. And car 33, unfortunately, is out of the race. He has completely left the session, it looks like, and he will drop down the order. But this was the issue in the Degner, too. I think just a little bit deep, and the rear end came right around, and he backs it into the wall and parks it.
Maybe enough suspension damage to warrant just dropping out of the race. Also, Fabio Zamperlini just spun out 130R, and he is now way down in the order.
I do want to go back and look at this issue for Scott Reister. There was pretty significant contact initially in the Casio triangle, and I think this is going to have a big effect on the rest of this race with Resende involved and others. Here's a look at it from our drone cams. And that was that purple machine out front. I'm not sure who that would have been. Maybe Miguel Colon in the Lamborghini. And Reister there side by side. Resende on the or left side. Reister comes over, a little bit of contact, and unfortunately, yeah, Reister just drove in the back of Resende, and everybody kind of fans out, trying to take spots. Reister's trying to hang on, and then around Kimbrough, Scott Kimbrough just takes the 2-for-1 special there, and takes a couple of really important positions away from Martin Crisp and others. That was impressive. One more look at it. This will be for Scott Kimbrough as he comes up on all of this, and we'll go back live afterwards. But Scott Kimbrough here in car 117. Started 17th, now up to 12th as he chases Miguel Colon, who leads in Pro-Am. We'll talk about that more in a moment, but this is that issue through Casio Triangle for the other drivers. And Kimbrough says, I'll just go around the left side and take all these spots away.
Yep, throttle up and get going. Get that draft, giddy up out of there.
Very impressive.
I mean, the space was there. And if
oh, Matsky now doing battle with Miranda. This is through the Casio Triangle, and you see it now on your screen. Toby Soriano in this fight, as well as Hunter McDaniel. And Matsky gets away with the 5th position.
Great run then for Matsky, has to defend against Miranda into turn 1.
He will keep that spot as Dench and Resende battle for 10th, but this far more impactful, I think, for now, as Miranda tries to find a way by now through the S's. They'll calm down. Matthew Dench, a mirror full of Jackson Resende here for the 10th spot, but Miranda starting to slide down the order.
Yeah, not something we're used to seeing out of Victor Miranda, who qualified again very well, has steadily dropped now down to 6th and under attack from Soriano McDaniel as well. You could see Miranda just potentially fall to 8th, just straight up on pace. And his teammate Bruno De Carmo is still up there in the 4th position. So it looks like it's
Gustavo
maybe not...
runs 2nd.
Right. I don't know if it's, persistent with, the team or the Lamborghini. Maybe Miranda made an adjustment, or this track maybe just doesn't suit his driving style.
It's hard to say, of course. These guys are on fixed setups. The iRacing.com fixed.sto. They're all kind of battling the same car conditions, at least in each car. Different cars may have an advantage, as we've talked about so much this season. It seems like the Lamborghini and Audi definitely have the leg up, but the Porsche leading currently still by 4/10 over Gustavo Ariel in the Lamborghini for Texaco Racing by TK. And Matsky wide there into 130R, but hangs on. No issues there through the grass as a couple of cars have some blinks further back. But here comes Victor Miranda, tries to find a way by. It's not going to happen there.
Miranda's going to keep doing this, though. Keep applying that pressure. Make Matsky force himself into a mistake. And you see Miranda closing the gaps with that slipstream, filling up the mirror. Maybe he's not even going to even send it down to the inside, but just keep him thinking, keep him looking in the mirror, and not focus on, what's directly in front or hitting all your points.
Did you notice into turn 1 there, I think Miranda shut the car off. I think he did more than just put the clutch in. I think he shut the car off.
I was going to say, it looked like the lights turned on and off, Andrew, but I thought maybe it was just a graphical thing from iRacing, but no, I did notice that as well.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I don't want to go back just in case something happens. We'll have to watch that, I think, in heavy braking zones, particularly into turn 1. So we will stay here with Victor Miranda unless something pops up that requires our attention. Such as, actually, our 2 race leaders. Actually, how about Miguel Colon and Matthew Dench? Dench flashing Colon. That is not a spot I feel that Colon should have had to yield, but Dench gets it anyways. And that is actually going to hurt Colon quite substantially, as that backs up a few more tenths to Scott Kimbrough. That is not a position I feel at all that Miguel had to yield, but he does so, plays nice, and they will live to see the next corner. And sometimes that's all you have to do is just keep yourself in the race. Here's Miranda once again. Let's watch this from the onboard of Matsky and see if he does this down to 130R. I doubt he would for 130R, but you never know.
And not really anything to muster up here. Just keeping Matsky honest, though.
Oh, there you go. Lights are off. And he rolls up, and the lights come back on there. That actually, okay, that might be a graphical issue. It looked like he really shut the car off for a moment. Let's ride on board and we'll tell for sure. Let's listen.
Yep, certainly here.
Okay, so that is a graphical thing. That is very, very odd that the lights go away for a moment. It really did look like the car was shutting off into turn 1. Which, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised. These guys usually do save in heavy braking zones like that, but apparently not the case today. Tires may be the forefronts of these drivers' minds. And certainly, since you can now take 2 tires at a pit stop and not lose anything, I think that's the way to go. Whether it's 2 fronts, 2 rights, 2 lefts, 2 rears, who knows? We'll find out soon, I'm sure, as this is Bruno De Carmo for 3rd with Marcos Saavedra just ahead.
Yeah, again, this is the other part of that where, Bruno De Carmo, who was right behind Victor Miranda early on. Oh, yeah. And say what he can in these heavy braking zones. But he's not losing any time to Saavedra also. Cyrus Saavedra is saving. or the Carmo just has that raw pace.
Making the most of off-throttle time here is Bruno DeCarmo as we approach pit stops. Let's go pit stop TV side by side for the first time in some time, and we'll continue to watch the picture on the left side of your screen. Don't go anywhere.
Are you struggling to keep up with the top drivers? Are you ready to get faster and more consistent? If so, it doesn't have to take as long as you might think. With the VRS competitive subscription, you'll have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything you need to analyze your driving and see exactly where you're losing time. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off your lap times. When it comes to your equipment holding you back, the powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the best drivers in the world, including Jordan Caruso, Tim Ryan, Jordi Lopez, and Oscar Piastri. It's no secret that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also the best value for money. So if you're looking to upgrade your wheelbase to direct drive and want highly adjustable, ultra-realistic pedals, VRS is your answer. You can get better, faster, and more consistent in less time and for less money. You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. Just go to the URL or the button below and learn why the best use VRS. Are you struggling to keep up with the top drivers? Are you ready to get faster and more consistent? If so, it doesn't have to take as long as you might think. With the VRS competitive subscription, you'll have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything you need to analyze your driving and see exactly where you're losing time. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off your lap times. When it comes to your equipment holding you back, the powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the best drivers in the world, including Jordan Caruso, Tim Ryan, Jordi Lopez, and Oscar Piastri. It's no secret that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also the best value for money. So if you're looking to upgrade your wheelbase to direct drive and want highly adjustable, ultra-realistic pedals, VRS is your answer. You can get better, faster, and more consistent in less time and for less money. You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. Just go to the URL or the button below and learn why the best use VRS.
Welcome back to the virtual Suzuka circuit in virtual Suzuka, Japan. This is Pit Stop TV, continuing coverage of the North American Racing League. Round 5 on the season out of 8 total. Watching these guys work out of the Degners up to turn 10 and the hairpin. One of the best sections of racetrack in all of racing. Of course, I'd say Spoon Curb is in that as well. You see some drivers head up to Spoon. I think that's Resende, Cologne, and Kimbrough. Great racing today for sure, Emerson. We've seen a wild, wild race for the amateurs. Now, for the pros, you can see our race leader out front, Ricardo Rico, in a Porsche, something we did not at all expect, but he is controlling this race so far. We're nearly halfway through, and Ricardo Rico, I think, has to be a choice for driver of the day. And wow, perfect timing. He goes purple at a 1:56.842.
Can't argue with that evidence, Andrew. I mean, he has been flat out dominant today. Kind of surprised us in qualifying with kind of just going up there in the Porsche that no one was really keeping their eyes on. And he just went up there and took the pole away from the even guys like Gustavo Ariel. And I think I'd look at Marcus Saavedra, who's been very competitive today, you know, working his way up from the 6th starting position up onto the podium, having to go through the likes of Victor Miranda and such, and it's just been a wild race for Saavedra. Very clean, and looks like it might just be a clean little podium for Marcus.
Well, it did just drop into 4th position, actually. Just lost a spot to Bruno DeCarmo, who's recently gone by. I think another choice could include Tim Matzke. You also have to look to guys like Hunter McDaniel and Toby Soriano for potential driver of the day today. Matthew Dench, even not so bad in the 9th spot. A lot of great choices out there in the top 10, but let's make our official choices. I'm going to go first for once. I want to claim Ricardo Rico out front, Emerson, but your 2 official choices here for the driver of the day poll that we're going to put up over on YouTube, who are they?
Well, I think I'm going to stick with Saavedra just because he's put on a brilliant defense stint still on Victor Miranda, who was applying that pressure very heavily. And I'd look at Hunter McDaniel, who's also had a very clean race. He's worked himself up into that 7th position. He's looking at a potential 6th position here on Victor Miranda, applying that pressure in that Brabham Lamborghini.
And you can see the driver of the day graphic on the bottom right. It's not final. In fact, the vote hasn't even opened. We still have one more selection to make. So far, your options are Ricardo Rico, who is actually headed into the pit lane now, so this could change things. Hunter McDaniel, Marco Saavedra, Ricardo Rico, and let's go ahead and take Toby Soriano in car number 4 as everybody is onto the pit lane. Those are your 4 driver of the day candidates today. Ricardo Rico, Marco Saavedra, Hunter McDaniel, and Toby Soriano. Vote accordingly out on YouTube once the vote goes live here in just a moment. As we're waiting on pit stop times here, Ricardo Rico down and away in 18.6. Resende stayed out. Ariel out with an 18.95. Miranda waiting. There goes Bruno DeCarmo though. Matthew Dench and more headed back out. There goes Saavedra. Everybody heading out very quickly.
Looks like a caution period in an oval race. My goodness, the pit lane was busy.
Everybody blending back out onto the racetrack. A couple of great battles and all of that as well. Matzke and Saavedra are very close. In fact, they swap positions. Saavedra losing a spot. And the vote is now live over on YouTube. Put in your votes now. Ricardo Rico, Marco Saavedra, Toby Soriano, and Hunter McDaniel are your options. Each of them could have a case made for them. And Emerson, everybody in this race, just about aside from Jackson Resende, just pitted all at once. And oh no! Marco Saavedra in Degner 2, and he is off the track and into the outside wall. Just when he started to get some votes, it looks like. Actually, no, has no votes yet in the driver of the day vote, but as soon as it goes live, he goes and puts it in the dirt. How this race comes undone for car 99. And where has Resende gone?
Yeah, I don't see Resende. Oh, I saw him there. He's in the 30s. Oh my goodness.
And he has had to toe to the pit lane. He was leading the race, battling around the top 10 cutoff when this happens. I think he ran out of fuel. Let's listen. Yes! Watch the attack. Jackson Resende, I don't know if he forgot to pit or if he was trying to go an extra lap, runs out of fuel in the Degners, and comes to a stop. Wow.
He's a long way away from making an extra lap. That is...
And that is exactly why he had to tow. He pulls off there before the hairpin. Unbelievable.
Massive miscalculation then.
Unbelievable. Ricardo Rico, your race leader, he's got 4 seconds nearly back to Gustavo. Your first battle in the top 10 is Victor Miranda on Hunter McDaniel, a couple of Lamborghinis for 5th and 6th positions. Get your votes in. Driver of the day leader currently is actually Hunter McDaniel, who is currently riding in 5th, but Ricardo Rico, your race leader, is on that ballot. Let's not forget Toby Soriano, Marco Saavedra, as Will Coffey, it looks like, has a problem in the Casio Triangle, and he is, off track, and he will come across the racetrack, it looks like, and pit, and he has had a crash.
Yeah, that front end has found something hard to mold it a different shape for Will Coffey, and that's too bad. He was, I think, just around that 20th position. You see, he was as high as 23rd. I think that's right where he was, having a good little run in that Pro-Am category, and all by his lonesome on the way to 130R.
Here's a look at Will Coffey into 130R. Is it 130R or is it the Casio Triangle? It is 130R. The car whips around again. That is not how that should react. So unfortunate for Will. And there goes Talon into the 5 for RD Simsport. And a couple of others as he has to go through the grass and the gravel there in the Casio Triangle. That is so unfortunate for Will.
Yeah, that's tough to really, swallow. I mean, he was, again, having a good race, and it happened all of a sudden. It looked like maybe something was on the track. Obviously, in iRacing that's not the case, but it was so instant, and there was no sign of that happening.
It was nearly as instant as if you take the DRS, I guess, enable DRS in a Formula 1 car and suddenly snap the wheel on a straightaway. That's how quickly the car went around. Like he just had no rear downforce and it just suddenly took off on him. That's so unfortunate. There's no way to take care of that aside from just not hit that curb. And it's a perfectly usable curb in any other case, really, and it should be for sure. That's difficult. It's really tough. Excuse me. Really tough to tell a driver not to use runoff curb at a place as fast as Suzuka. There was a battle back here for 20th and 21st. Dalton Zavadil and Carlos Beretta. Zavadil a pro, Beretta a Pro-Am. These guys trailing Rodrigo Lapri and Rob Rodriguez Jr. And while we have a moment here, I want to go back to that race that I was talking about last night. The charity race that actually raised $34,000 for the Sick Kids Foundation in Canada. And Rob Rodriguez Jr. and his son Bryce Rodriguez were a big part of that event. They led the opening stints of that race. Unfortunately, they had some issues after pitting under a caution period at Watkins Glen. But Rob Rodriguez Jr., a big part of that team as well, was able to close out that race with a top 10 despite going flipping through the S's and then having to take a fast repair. And just props to those guys. And there's others in this race, Dalton Zavadil, for example, and Jason Allen, and a few other guys that were able to take part in that event last night, and just props to them. There were some pro guys like Tony Kanaan, who races here in the North American Racing League, and others who were able to take part in that race last night. There was a message from James Hinchcliffe. Just a really cool event overall. And again, props to those from the NARL that were able to take part and help raise money, and I'm sure donate a bit to the Sick Kids Foundation in Canada. That is always really, really cool. Meanwhile, Matthew Dench, Victor Miranda battle for 6th.
And we continue to just monitor the drop that Victor Miranda is experiencing through this field. This is now the 7th place driver looking to make this overtake with Matthew Dench. And of course, Matthew Dench is no slouch. has been very competitive, and I believe in one of the Porsche Cup seasons was right up there in the thick of it.
He's competed for championships almost every season he's running the GT3 cars as well.
Absolutely. And here it is. I'm gonna just have to guess that this is just not a track for Victor Miranda. Maybe hot lapping was one thing, but this is starting to look like it's gonna get the best of him.
On board with Miranda as he runs in 6th. The trailing Aussie closes in on the hairpin, but no move there for sure. Marco Saavedra not too far back of these guys, and oh my goodness. You can't script it any worse than that. Gets loose in the middle of the corner, loses more time. Of course, a lot of rear wing damage, probably some suspension damage after catching the tires through the second Degner curve. The car looks okay, though, through Spoon. Hopefully he's able to continue hanging on to that machine and not have any more issues. Scott Reister is 13th, trailing Martin Crisp, another one of those drivers that was in that event last night. But Scott has fallen back slowly in this race. Started 11th, worked up into the top 10 early, now 13th position. And just trying to keep his race intact. He's 5th in the pro standings. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a detour on his season.
Yeah, not the greatest of runs then for Scott, but still time to improve upon that. Looks like he's a little ways away from really climbing. He's got Martin Crisp directly in front. Then the Pro-Am battle for the lead way up the road. Find a way of falling back here. This is Zavadil and Lepre going at it for 19th.
And Zavadil takes it. But here comes Barretto up the inside of Lepre. That's side-by-side in Pro-Am. And Emerson, I'm glad you mentioned that Miguel Colon has been run down by Scott Kimbrough. I had mentioned these guys earlier, but I'd actually lost tabs on this fight for the 10th position on the racetrack. But first in Pro-Am, Miguel Colon, Scott Kimbrough racing for a win. 2 Lamborghinis going after it, and this is the gap, just a half second.
Yeah, the race is on. Here, Miguel Colon, he had quite the advantage early on. He had about 5 spots, maybe about 5 or 6 seconds over Scott Kimbrough. And I don't know, maybe there was a mistake or two from Miguel's part, whether on the track or in the pit stops, or Kimbrough has just absolutely been on it. But we have a race now, and it is all, gloves are off here. Final 15 minutes of this race.
You know what I think was a contributing factor to this battle is Miguel Colon has let several pro drivers through. Matthew Dench was one of them. I think Toby Soriano may have been another. Has let multiple pro drivers go on by, and that's just given up time over and over. And slowly, I think Kimbrough's pace has just been a bit better. In fact, last lap, they were separated by 4/1000th of a second, and at that point, you can chalk that up to some arrow wash for Kimbrough. But this is a proper battle now. On lap 18 of an expected 26, 14 minutes to go, and the fight is on in Pro-Am. Through 130R. And
this is a big time there.
We keep doing it, Everson. We keep pausing, waiting for the other to go, and then we talk. But, yeah, through those final couple of corners in the lap, and there we go. Saavedra will finally pit, unfortunately, and his race is all but over. He'll be able to continue, I'm sure, just in a much more limited capacity. And actually, that was a pass-through. It's not even for repairs. That's even worse.
Well, you know what, Andrew? I noticed it when he was going through Spoon. It looks like that there is some, obviously, just apparent wing damage. Despite some suspension damage as well. He's nursing the steering wheel. He didn't turn in as much as he'd want to going into Spoon, and it looked intentional. Like, he was just trying not to spin the car out, which is easy to do when there's damage to that suspension. So I think he was just trying to keep it as straight as he can while navigating the course. And Saavedra is again just from 3rd position. Now just trying to finish the race.
Let's recap some battles on track. You just saw one of them. Daniel Denizen in the 27th position, passing Zach Deas. So Aerokinetics now ahead of Maradness in this case. Denizen takes that spot. We're going to go from the rear to the front as far as battles on the racetrack. How about Brent Cook and Stacy Bertrand? They're only a few tenths apart. Brent Cook in 24th, Bertrand in 25th for Team NARL. Their teammate, Love 46, not in the field this evening. Very unfortunate. How about, though, Dalton Zavadil and Rob Rodriguez Jr.? These guys were both in that charity race last night, now doing battle for 18th and 19th. And at many points in time, their teams were battling for the lead last night. So, I mean, this is like a wash, rinse, repeat in this case, albeit for 18th position now and 19th instead of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever. And Rob Rodriguez Jr., also a Pro-Am. Zavadil, a Pro. Ahead of these guys, David Schwartz and Marco Saavedra for 14th and 15th positions. And then finally, you loop back around to your Pro-Am leaders, Miguel Colon and Scott Kimbrough, as they actually run down Toby Soriano for just an added bit of spice to this battle.
And Toby, I'm sure he's probably not going to want to let these guys by at all, but they are coming quickly. Miguel Colon has a good bit of a pace, it seems, on Toby. Toby in that Audi and Miguel in the Lamborghini along with Kimbrough. And maybe, just maybe, the Lambos are starting to show their strength here the later going here.
And it's surprising, too, that on the long run, these Lamborghinis would be best, but it seems that way. Which now makes you have to wonder for Daytona, what car do you take? Of course, there's specific regulations, specific BOPs for the Daytona 24, but these drivers are all thinking about it. If you think they're not, you're dead wrong. All these drivers and teams are thinking about it. And a problem. Victor Miranda has binned it out of Degner 2 and has gone around with about 11 minutes to go.
And the difficult day for Miranda just gets worse, it seems. He had spun out there for a while. He was trying to get it turned around as well. All by himself. Maybe just a little wide there through Degner 1. No, it looks fine. Nope, through Degner 2 does, though. No damage.
No damage. Didn't hit anything. I say he binned it. Really just spun around and had to wait. Let's go on board and see what it's like for, in this case, Victor Miranda, a pro-level driver, to follow the back end of this car around and try and save it. This is in the Degner 2 right here. Watch the hands. That's just so abnormal for a GT3 car. And in this case, it's just handling. It's just trying to battle the handle of the car. And unfortunately, he was not able to hang on.
Well, now that I think about it more, Miranda, he hasn't really been in the Lamborghini much, has he?
You know, I think they've kind of flip-flopped over there at Texaco Racing by TK. I think he might have run it a couple of times, but a lot of Audi and BMW racing for those guys for sure. This is a fight for third. Now Bruno DeCarmo and Tim Matzke fighting for a podium position. Hunter McDaniel not far out, who is currently leading our driver of the day vote. And we're going to have to watch this battle and this battle, as Toby Soriano has officially backed up to Miguel Colon and Scott Kimbrough. And Soriano being in the Audi, it makes sense that he's backing up the racetrack a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like that's starting to become a common trend.
The tires just burn up.
Right. These Audis just maybe they weigh a little bit more. You know, they add a little bit more pressure on the certain tires, you know, that you really lean on to navigate this course. I think there's more left-hand turns, I guess, if you look at the S's and the Degners.
Whoa, Matzke out wide and Spoon. Hopefully that's not a slowdown for him, extending the track there. He comes back on, chasing Bruno DeCarmo. Let's go on board and see what he does here down to 130R. Closing in. He might try and give up time in the braking zone for the Casio Triangle and bleeds a little bit there. So if he does have a slowdown, he's being smart about it.
The thing is, though...
Oh, here he goes! Up the inside of the Casio Triangle. They both push off the racetrack and back on. Here comes Bruno DeCarmo, and Matzke has to go out wide. And here comes Hunter McDaniel as Matzke tries to push him out a little bit. Nose to tail, Matzke comes all the way over, and he's going to give the inside now to Hunter McDaniel.
I don't think he gave it to him. McDaniel was hounding that rear end. Now the defense back to the normal race line for DeCarmo. Here comes McDaniel. Matzke goes wide through one. McDaniel stuffs it in there, and they're going to make side-by-side contact entering the S's.
Matzke's racing hard, but Hunter McDaniel wants that fourth spot. He can taste it. He can nearly even taste a podium as he challenges there in the S's, and that gives up a big chunk of time that's oh so important. He maybe rounds it back trying to get that cookie jar back away from Matsky, but he's not able to stick with him. And you can see through Dunlop that Audi squats away. Oh, a little bit of a bobble there as well. But Tim Matsky now opening the gap back up to McDaniel as he tries to chase Bruno DeCarmo back down. Fantastic Degner 1 for the Audi. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. Behind these guys, it's getting more and more exciting for the Pro-Am race lead. Soriano is on the nose now of Cologne as Kimbrough just continues to try and set this up, wait for his opportunity.
Absolutely. Kimbrough is there. He's kind of worked his way to this point. I mean, I don't know, if he's maybe studying Miguel, but it is hard to find that run. They're both in the Lamborghinis, though. And with the fixed setup, then there's not a whole lot of advantage. And oh no, Hunter McDaniel just went around and spoon.
Hunter McDaniel, your current driver of the day, leader, has just spun around and given up a run at a top 5 tonight and maybe even a podium. Matsky, meanwhile, into 130R. He's fallen back a little bit of Bruno DeCarmo. The Audi nice and poised through the fastest corner on the racetrack just about. And this time, no pass attempt, clearly too far back. How about Miguel Colon, though, and Scott Kimbrough for the Pro-Am race lead. 6 minutes to go.
And again, Toby Soriano right in front. That it's maybe a double-edged sword. Maybe in the high-speed corners like the S's, maybe it's hurting Miguel Colon. But right there,
But
down
it's
the
dropped on
straightaway,
the straightaways, yeah.
Yeah, that was huge.
It's limiting the passing opportunities and the drafting opportunities here for Kimbrough. It is a big-time factor for Miguel Colon. But eventually, I think he's got to get by. At some point, that Audi is going to drop off a cliff, I think, and start to hold him up as Victor Miranda pits. Unprecedented second pit stop for him.
This one might be incident points also.
I think you're right. We'll see what he does. It's a straight-up drive-through. Back to your Pro-Am lead battle. Soriano in the Audi, just ahead. He's a pro. The two Lamborghinis in this shot, though, they are your Pro-Am leaders. Miguel Colon in 8th, Scott Kimbrough in 9th overall.
Also noticing Martin Crisp is continuing to close the gap to Soriano. So I believe Soriano is holding these guys up. It's just maybe difficult to find that place to overtake.
On board with Kimbrough now. From his 17th to 9th. Oh, and he goes way deep into the hairpin. Gives up a lot of time.
My goodness.
But he does stay ahead of Martin Crisp, and that is so important. If Soriano is holding up Cologne, this is not over. He's got an opportunity still to run them back down. He got in deep and lost a lot of time, Emerson, but he's only about 1.3 seconds back. Miguel Colon may have to make now his opportunity, though, and get by Soriano this time in the Casio Triangle. Oh, the tires are roasted for Kimbrough. He bobbled again through Spoon, and Crisp now, I'm sure, wants to go by.
Yeah, this is going to be huge. Chris smells that blood in the water, wants to make this overtake. He's setting Kimbrough up. Kimbrough now heads down to 130R with the advantage. He'll have to watch the lunge here out of 130R into the Casio Triangle. Here it comes.
Here comes Martin Crisp with the inside. Does not quite get there. Backs out of it. Good, smart racing. Miguel Colon, meanwhile, he's got to go by at some point. He also could be saving fuel, potentially. If he's staying behind Toby Soriano now, I know it's draft, but if Scott doesn't have the draft, I guess now he doesn't have Crisp to worry about. I don't know. I feel like if I'm Cologne, I want to pass this car ahead. I want to get past Toby Soriano as soon as possible and put him in the mirrors and try to drive away from Scott Kimbrough with these last few moments to go. If you stay behind Soriano, I just think you're opening the door to back yourself up.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder maybe if that pressure dropped off because Kimbrough fell off, and maybe Cologne isn't powering through Soriano, because we saw, Cologne giving up the spots to the pro drivers. I don't know if he wants, kind of put himself back in that position. But with 3 minutes to go, you got to worry about the category lead as it is.
We say all of this, but Kimbrough really not within striking distance. It's a 1.6 second gap, although it does seem to be closing ever so slightly. Down to 1.3 seconds, but it should lengthen back out on the straightaway here. He did still make a gain there, down to 1.5. Meanwhile, Matthew Dench chases Tim Matsky down to 130R, and we should get the 2 to go signal here. Ricardo Rico does take 2 laps to go out front. Gustavo Ariel in second. Bruno DeCarmo third. Then Tim Matzke and Matthew Dench. And then you get back to that battle with Miguel Colon and Scott Kimbrough. Here they go to 130R. Miguel Colon still using the draft from Soriano. Kimbrough just trying to close in. It's now a 1.4 second gap. Got to watch this move, though, from Crisp. Oh, Martin Crisp up the inside. Oh.
I got to say that, of course, that hurts Kimbrough, but Miguel Colon, that was a fantastic move he just put on him.
Don't like that. I know why Martin is racing. I know he gets points out of that pass, but I will say, this is really a personal thing as far as racing goes. In that case, your different classes, if I'm Martin Crisp, I'm going to let Kimbrough keep racing. Hold myself behind him. There's no pressure from behind. This is for a race win for these guys, and now Kimbrough really has realistically no shot to see Brent Cook go off into the grass. That is so unfortunate for Kimbrough. And you could say Kimbrough might have shot himself in the foot, but there was still very much a chance, and now that has been written entirely off. That said, Bruno DeCarmo, Tim Matzke, and Matthew Dench still close together. And Ricardo Rico is going to lead us around. He is already down to 130R nearly.
Oh, no!
Miguel Colon has just been... Oh, my goodness!
Oh...
And Kimbrough does, after all, go through for the Pro-Am lead. Mitchell Johnson to second, David Schwartz to third, and Miguel Colon, with 2 laps to go, loses the Pro-Am lead.
I am not believing this. I mean, just when you thought it was over, Cologne.
I literally just said Kimbrough can't win. Here it is.
Unless this happens.
And on the curbing, the car just, that is so unfortunate. That should not have happened. I'm not sure.
He didn't do anything wrong.
I'm not sure what it is, but that should not have happened. That car should not have whipped around like that. And that is so frustrating for these drivers. So unfortunate. That is so disheartening. Here is your overall race leader, Emerson. What were you about to say?
I was just gonna say, I hope this is not a problem that's prevalent in future races, because this is gonna be very difficult. These drivers are gonna have to learn how to pretty much drive without using the curbs, which I'm sure they've kind of drilled into their heads at this point.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. I know curbing, maybe should be avoided, but it also should be able to be used. The tracks install it there for a reason. And for some reason, when these cars catch the curbing a certain way right now, it's just whipping them around. I don't know if it's rub blocks or what have you. I have no clue. I don't build video games or simulators or anything like that, but it's just so disheartening to watch car after car use perfectly viable piece of racetracks and go around. But nonetheless, Ricardo Rico, let's not down the moment here. Ricardo Rico is going to come around and take a statement win, leading from flag to flag, Emerson, behind the wheel of a Porsche. We didn't think it could happen. We thought he'd be subject to a fight from the from the Lamborghinis and the Audis, the BMWs and the Ferraris. Yet, a Porsche dominant at Suzuka is going to victory lane. It's all on throttle from here. Congratulations, Ricardo Rico, winner in Japan.
I mean, an absolute amazing run, dominant at that 11 seconds clear of the Lambos. But here we go, Matzke trying to fend off Dench for 4th.
And he'll do exactly that. Dench will not be able to get that spot away. Hunter McDaniel in 6th. Toby Soriano ahead of Martin Crisp and Scott Kimbrough here for 7th, 8th, and 9th. And Scott Kimbrough has just a couple of corners, the Casio Triangle, to go to take home a statement Pro-Am win. And this one might be enough to give him possible, not necessarily a championship yet, but boy, is it going to be hard to beat Scott Kimbrough when he takes max points in class. Congratulations, Scott Kimbrough. He gets the win over, after all, over Mitchell Johnson and David Schwartz. Miguel Colon, heartbreak. He will finish 13th this evening over Marco Saavedra. Then it's Fabio Zamperlini and more, as Souza and Zavadiel will race to the line. How about Rodriguez Jr. and Lepre? How about Sedlak here with Justin Barrera on his tail? This through Spoon.
This is the battle for 23rd. That's going to go up the hill. Looks like another player in the mix there as well.
Sedlak, Barrera, Bertrand, and Deus. 4 cars to 130R. A Porsche, 2 BMWs, and a Mercedes, and they're all stable through 130R. Beautiful corner. Sedlak leading this train, and he's going to give no positions up. The Firelight Esports, number 203, will hang on to 23rd over Justin Barrera for Shut Up and Drive It, Stacy Bertrand for Team NARL, and Zach Deus for Moradness. And it's not entirely over. We still have Pierre Thompson and Thomas Rayleigh, but now, race over. The results will finalize here. We'll see if there's any penalties to be adjusted after the line. It looks like none. So let's get your unofficial race results. By the way, Ricardo Rico now leading the driver of the day vote, but there is still time to change that. Get out there in the virtual polls for Ricardo Rico, Marco Saavedra, Toby Soriano, and Hunter McDaniel. Ricardo Rico this evening takes the win easily, or at least it seems. At least he makes it look this evening at Suzuka. And let's see your unofficial race results. Rico, with 26 of 26 laps led and 11 seconds of a gap back to Gustavo Ariel. Congratulations, Ricardo Rico. Bruno Carmo comes home third. Tim Matsky, fourth place. Matthew Dench, fifth. McDaniel, 6th, Soriano, 7th, Crisp, 8th position, and then you see Scott Kimbrough in Pro-Am with the class win. Scott Reister will come home 10th.
11th will find Mitchell Johnson, who will finish 2nd in that Pro-Am category over David Schwartz, and 3rd, Miguel Colon, who had it locked up all but makes a mistake in the waning moments, just clipping the curbing, I guess wrong, finishes 13th, though 4th in the category. Marcus Saavedra finishes 14th, Fabio Zamperlini 15th, and Victor Miranda in 16th. Was a wild drop from the great qualifying he had to finish in the 16th position. Unheard of for Victor Miranda. Lucas Souza will finish 17th and 5th in the Pro-Am category. Dalton Zavideo 18th, Rob Rodriguez Jr. 19th, and Rodrigo Lepre finishes 20th.
21st this evening goes to Blake Townend from RD Simsport. Carlos Barreto finishes 22nd for Texaco Racing by TK. It's Firelight Esports and John Sedlak in 23rd. Justin Barrera in Shut Up and Drive It in 24th. And Team NARL and Stacy Bertrand in 25th. And finally, Zach Deus in that line of cars finishes 26th spot for Moradness. Pierre Thompson finishes 27th in that Ken Block tribute. Thomas Rayleigh and Will Coffey will finish 28th and 29th, separated by technically 1 lap. Rayleigh, the final car on the lead lap. Coffey, the first car 1 lap down. And Stephen McDonald, after his early issues, will finish 30th position for Brabham Esports. He looked so good in the early goings.
31st will be Bobby Flack. 32nd, Daniel Dennison. 33rd, Ramon Vasquez. 34th will be Neil Bledsoe. 35th, Diego Eda. 36th, Brent Cook. Joel Singleton finishes 37th. Jackson Resende, 38th, 12 laps down. Jason Allen, 39th. T. Gashburn finishes 40th.
Finishing 41st, 42nd, and 43rd, it's Corey Maxim, Eric Sarapoli, and Juan Blainat. And that is a killer finish for Juan Blainat very early on. Take him out of the championship fight. He was 4th coming into tonight, and I just don't think there's any good shot of it now. And, you know, we talk about the championship. We kind of glossed over it. Really, in Pro and Pro-Am, it's starting to be wrapped up as Gustavo Ariel opens up more of a gap to Tim Matsky. Matthew Dench couldn't even really touch him. Gustavo is just so good. Finishes 2nd tonight, and we'll be talking to him in just a moment. But first up, the overall race winner tonight, the dominant Porsche driver. It's Ricardo Rico. Ricardo, a Porsche pole, then victory lane. How?
I don't know, to be fair. I don't know because I didn't have any other reference on the Porsche on the first group. So I just did my job. I just picked the Porsche because I raced with it on the 10 hours of Suzuka and I was confident. So I didn't even try the Lambo or the Audi.
So just confidence behind the wheel in the Porsche, that's all it was.
Yeah. I felt confident when I tried it. So it was the most of the work was on trying to not die on the 130R because it was very dangerous. After that, the car was very good on the rest of the track.
Well, Ricardo, congratulations not just for the race win tonight, but how about driver of the day? How does that sound?
Ole, seems amazing. I could recover because the last race I was with good pace also, but I messed up at the end when trying to get the podium. So today is like a redemption for me, and I'm very happy for the race and for the guys who bought me. I thank them for the for being them there.
And the championship's a long shot for you, Ricardo, but this is definitely a step at least towards the top three in the standings. Gustavo is just so good. Is there any way you can beat him in this championship? Do you think it's going to happen at all?
I don't know. To be fair, I just think it's better to go race to race, and then we'll see after that. But yeah, just try to do the best job on every race, because Gustavo is not failing. He's just first or on the podium. So yeah, enjoy every race and try to improve, and that's it.
Well, congratulations, Rico. I love that outlook. Congratulations on the race win in dominating fashion in the Porsche, no less, and driver of the day. We'll see you next week at Spa.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Ricardo Rico, so strong tonight. Just absolutely stellar. The best race you could have asked for Car 51. But it all comes ahead of this guy, Gustavo Ediel, who takes home another top three. And let's bring in Gustavo, who takes home, I think, a seriously important finish. Gustavo, it is another big-time points gain, and this might be one of the final nails in the coffin. I know it's not over yet, but this is a lot of points for you in the championship.
Yeah, today was a good one. I really like this car, this combo, and on the qualifying, I have the pace for the pole position maybe, but it's very difficult this track to put the lap together. Very oversteery this Lambo, and when the race comes in, I had a very good pace at the beginning, and I was trying to follow Ricardo, and we are like 3-4 tenths faster than the other guys, so I know P2 it's like safe this race, so I was trying to only save some fuel, but Ricardo's trying to get away, and he's doing very good times, like 56.8. So yeah, it's amazing. And after that, he starts to push, and it's like a 3 tenths faster than me. And I was trying to save my tires and try to underfuel on the pit stop, but. After that, I only try to save a lot of fuel, after the pit stop, because don't work my strategy, and very happy with the P2. Sorry about my English, not practicing a lot these days, but it's always a pleasure to drive with these guys, and to finish second. It's a very constant championship for me, like always on the top 5, so very happy with that. The points is very close, so one DNF will be crucial to decide the championship. So let's try to do another top 3 on the next race, and try to to be clever on the car choice. Ricardo did an amazing job with the Porsche, so he deserves a lot. And let's see what future brings in.
Yeah, the drop week is definitely going to change things, but quickly here, Gustavo, how about the car choice as well for Ricardo Rico? He takes a Porsche. You guys are all playing the games with the Lambo and the Audis. Does that change the game for you guys at Texaco Racing by TK? Are you now going to have to look at the Porsche potentially for Spa?
Yeah, we need to see, because I think for Spa it would be more easy because we have like the officials on the last week, so we are going to see some results, to try new things. I think the car is not a problem for us. I think we are all 4 like on the pro class. Jackson, me, Victor, and Bruno, and Carlos as well. I think we adapt very well with all the cars. So yeah, let's try to test more, to try more, because it's very busy this beginning of the year for me. We have a lot of great big events like Daytona, PESC is on the next month, so very busy for for trying, but for sure Spa is one amazing track. Everyone like it, and let's try to do another top 3. If I win, I'm happy, but I think if I win the championship on the end of the season will be will be even better. So let's try to do the job, and let's see. Thank you so much, Texaco Racing by Tony Kanam, our sponsorships, Texaco Lubrificantes, HB Brasil, Logitech, B8 Seguros, and see you on the next race.
Well, Gustavo, congratulations tonight on another top 3, and congratulations to your team as well. Bruno, right behind you. You guys are fantastic, and I think very much on your way to another championship.
Thank you so much, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Gustavo Ariel there from second place. Let's now bring in, Emerson, your Pro-Am race winner, Scott Kimbrough.
And Scott, just when we thought the running for the Pro-Am race was over, as Chris got on through, Miguel Colon makes a mistake, and all of a sudden you're back in the driver's seat. Scott, how about it?
Just fortunate to be there at the end. It was definitely a tough race. I think I said it a few weeks ago, but the new tire model, the way they behave through a race, it's really an entire race that you have to put together to keep the car under control. So yeah, just happy to be there at the end.
Absolutely, but it looked like it was very difficult to make it to the end tonight. We saw a lot of mistakes out of a lot of drivers. Even Miguel Colon was one of them, just clipping the curb. What was your practice like to try to keep yourself out of trouble this week?
Yeah, I try to practice at a very, at a 101% clip, and push every limit so that I'm comfortable driving at 100% in the race, which it definitely took tonight. The pace of the guys up front is unbelievable. It really is unbelievable that they could be going that fast. So, yeah, the car felt good. I didn't feel like the car was giving me any kind of issues. I almost got into the back of Miguel in the hairpin a couple laps, 3 laps or so before the end, because I know he was catching Toby. We were both catching Toby, and I just misjudged him slowing down a little bit earlier, so I went wide to make sure I didn't hit him, but that cost me staying in that battle. And then unfortunately he just had the spin late, so feel bad for him because he drove a great race.
Absolutely, but you did as well, getting the Pro-Am victory, and that should definitely help yourself in the standings. But next up is Spa. What do you think about your chances there?
It'll be the same as this. It's a long track, fast track, but some trouble spots. So just try to have the same practice schedule and routine, and have the pace to, stay in the pack, stay in the hunt, and be there at the end.
Well, there you are, Scott. Congratulations on the Pro-Am class victory here in Suzuka. Best of luck to you next week at Spa.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate all you do. Thank you to Scott and NARL and all the guys and girls on the Empire team. It's a pleasure to get to run with them, race with them, learn from them. So it's the majority of the fun. I enjoy it. So thank you guys for everything you do.
There you go, Scott Kimbrough with a fantastic drive tonight. Let's bring in Mitchell Johnson. Emerson, this guy, I don't know how he put himself in this spot right there at the end, but the 0-2-1 BMW that had trouble early, he goes not quite to victory lane, but to the second step on the podium.
Absolutely. All of a sudden, things looked up there for you, Mitchell, there at the end, coming up to second now in the category. But walk us through the race. Looked like a lot of drivers struggled today. What kept you out of trouble?
I was my own worst enemy today. I think it was, I don't know, like in the early couple laps, I had a spin as well, and luckily it wasn't too bad. Was able to rejoin quick, so there was definitely a lot of carnage out there today for sure.
Right, and in the race we saw a plethora of Lamborghinis. Even Scott Kimbrough, Miguel Colon, who were up ahead, were in the Lamborghinis. But what had y'all kind of go in the direction of the BMW?
Just for my own personal testing and coaching from Dan and Stu, We just kind of determined that the BMW is going to be the best choice for me personally. I was seeing the best performance out of the tires and just overall pace, throughout the stint. So it was a pretty easy choice for me. I mean, I think we had almost every car race tonight. We even had a Ford GT race in the AM race, so it's really cool to see all the manufacturers out.
Absolutely. We got a good trial of all the GT3 cars pretty much in the last couple of weeks. But Mitchell, it is a second place finish for you in Pro-Am and 11th overall tonight here at Suzuka. Congratulations on that. And next up is Spa. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, Spa's going to be really good. We have a great group of guys over at M Squad and a lot of great companies behind us, so it's really easy to get in there and get practice done with the team. So it's just going to be that same routine of us, practicing for the week and just getting ready for the race.
There you are, man. Congratulations on the second place finish. Best of luck to you next week, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Mitchell Johnson from P2 and Pro-Am. Definitely a good night of racing here, Emerson, at Suzuka. I don't think anybody could have predicted what we saw. Is there any way you could wrap this up?
I mean, I honestly felt coming into today's race, we were actually going to get one of the more calmer races on the season. And boy, I couldn't have been wronger. The amateur race was absolutely chaos. And there was a bit of that in the pro race as well. Curbs, man. Yeah, I guess we just got to stay off of them, man. They were the defining moment or the defining factor in both of these races.
Yeah, the curbs in 130R especially, but as well as the Degners. I think we saw more of that in the pro race, in the Degner curves, but we saw more of 130R in the amateur race. And, it's unfortunate. And honestly, my sympathy goes out to all of these drivers right now. I'm not sure what's going on as far as why these cars are spinning so dramatically, so instantly on these curbs. But, this is also a little bit concerning for Spa next week. What track do we use more curbs at than Spa? I don't think there is one. Maybe Coda. I think Coda and Spa both, you're on the curbs every single corner, every single lap. From Osoris up through Eau Rouge and Radion, I think you might be okay. But once you get to Lacombe, at the end of the Kemmel, you're very much all over the curves through Lacombe, what is it, Malmedy for turn 7, Bruxelles, Jackie X. I don't think there is a single corner until you get back around to the bus stop that you are not on the curbs in some way. Actually, no, I guess through 8, through Bruxelles you're not. Every other corner, I think you're on the curbs.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge for these guys. I honestly, other than Daytona, with Spot and Brands Hatch, you use a bunch of curb there as well. Yeah. Maybe not every corner, but it's going to be the tail of these races if it continues to be a problem.
Well, there you go. Lewis, stay off of the curbing, please. Everybody's got to listen to Toto these last few races. This is unprecedented. I know we've seen the update of GT3 regulations, and we can recap that a little bit as to what's changed, but nothing here references curbing, and we've seen plenty of curbing used the first few races. It's just suddenly this week, you can't, excuse me, recovering from strep, man. This night has been a long one, but you simply can't touch curbs. That's what it is. I don't know how you cope with that. I don't know, as a driver, how you tell yourself for nearly an hour of racing at Spa, don't touch a single curb. I know for a little while there you kind of had to do that in order to not hit incident limits in endurance races, but that's also an endurance race, Emerson. You take GT3 cars to Spa, and it's for 24 hours usually. It's a lot easier in 24 hours when you're turning that car over and you have this big picture than it is in 50 minutes, and it's realistically a sprint race. So drivers, I feel for you. I am sympathetic for once, baby. This is going to be a really rough time next week at Spa. I think if you're brand new here to the North American Racing League, you're seeing a little bit of a phenomenon, and you've got to be here next week. You have got to be here for Spa. I don't know how else to recap. I really don't know how else to sum this up. It's going to be interesting next week, for sure, to say the least. But let's talk about our upcoming broadcasts here on the channel. There's definitely a lot to talk about. For the North American Racing League, next up it's Spa on Thursday, January 19th, but sandwiched in between two big-time shows for the Painbuilt Legends, the 6th and 7th rounds for the Advanced Legends Cup, as we go to Southern National Motorsports Park in Kenly, North Carolina, and then the Bull Ring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada. Two fantastic racetracks, two very tight racetracks as well, Emerson. A lot going on here on this upcoming broadcast graphic.
Absolutely, and you keep up, of course, with all the action on our social media platforms. Our Facebook page, of course, at facebook.com/pitstoptv. Our Instagram at pit_stop_TV. Our Twitter at pitstoptv_. We were live on Twitch tonight at twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV. And of course, our YouTube channel at youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1.
Well, that will do it for us this evening at Suzuka. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to our partners here with the channel and the series. Let's talk about them here on the left side of your screen. VRS, Virtual Racing School, Moradness, and JS Consulting, as well as our partners here on the channel, Whiplash Media Simcams, SimRepMarket.com, and another one, Short Track Weekly. And you know what? I was going to make a point of this at the 10-minute to-go mark because it's 10% off, but if you use code PSTV at simrapmarket.com, you can get 10% off of your order. That is huge. That is crucial, especially going into the Daytona 24 week. You can grab yourself a fresh new paint scheme template, color it to your liking, do some spec map work on it, put some logos on there, obviously, for your team, and have a fresh-looking car. Emerson, I've even done the same, actually, for your team and some of your endurance races, and those cars look fantastic. That is a big-time special going into Daytona, really.
Absolutely. I mean, they keep us looking sleek on the track, and all the teammates love it, and I'll keep using them until I can't.
Well, there you go. It gets a little bit easier as well with that promo code again, PSTV, for 10% off of your order. That will do it for us this evening from the Virtual Suzuka. Thanks so much once again for watching. A big shout out to our broadcast crew, Emerson Arden and Zach Lindgren alongside. Hopefully we can keep this on going to Spawn next week, but that's it from Suzuka. We'll see you in Belgium next week. If not, we hope to see you on Monday evening from Kenly, North Carolina for the Advanced Legends at Southern National Motorsports Park. We'll see you there.
Are you struggling to keep up with the top drivers? Are you ready to get faster and more consistent? If so, it doesn't have to take as long as you might think. With the VRS competitive subscription, you'll have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything you need to analyze your driving and see exactly where you're losing time. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off your lap times. When it comes to your equipment holding you back, the powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the best drivers in the world, including Jordan Caruso, Tim Ryan, Jordi Lopez, and Oscar Piastri. It's no secret that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also the best value for money. So if you're looking to upgrade your wheelbase to direct drive and want highly adjustable, ultra-realistic pedals, VRS is your answer. You can get better, faster, and more consistent in less time and for less money. You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. Just go to the URL or the button below and learn why the best use VRS.